We're going to start this meeting. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. Mary, roll call.
Mayor Brunner,
Yes.
Vice
Here.
Mayor Rich,
Yes.
Commissioner Clark,
Yes.
Commissioner Collins,
Yes, here.
Commissioner McDonald.
Here.
And we're going to stand up and do our invocation. And Pastor Darrell Horman, we're so happy you're here from First Baptist. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Good to be with you. Several years ago, I started listening to country music again, so my wife thought I was having a midlife crisis. So for your edification, I want to share with you just a handful real quickly of real country music titles, okay? I'm so miserable without you, it's like having you here. Please bypass this heart. How can I miss you if you won't go away? I changed her oil and she changed my life. And this is one of my favorites. I want to whip your cow. And then finally, if my nose were full of nickels, I'd blow it all on you.
Oh, goodness.
Close with that one. Let's have a word of prayer. Father, we just want to tell you we love you today and thank you for the privilege to be here. We ask you to pour your spirit out in this meeting. And Father, we just pray that you'd give wisdom and guidance and instruction. And Father, help everyone to hear clear communication. And Lord, we also want to ask you if you would just to bring an awakening to our nation and specifically even to our county and to this city. We pray, Lord, that there'd be just an awakening of morality and honesty and integrity and, Lord, just a supernatural movement of your spirit. And we just want to tell you we love you and praise you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you, sir. Now we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, do I have any comments with the commissioners? I'll start with you, Commissioner Clark,
Is that it already?
if you have any comments.
Yeah, I do have comments. I just want to say that before this meeting, we had a Community Redevelopment Agency meeting, and at that meeting, we approved a matching grant for a mural on Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. And I know we've had other grants and murals in the community, and starting out this year with a mural in this area, and especially during February of Black History Month, I think that is a good move that the city made, and I just want to applaud our staff with the CRA for their continuous work and what they're doing, and I really, really appreciate that. At our last meeting, I don't know if it was the city manager or one of us who had brought up, or maybe I did, brought up the idea of the NAACP, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, that was started in 1909 by both black and white men and women of these United States. They're having their annual gala on March 16th. And I brought it up and there was discussion, and I thought that somehow staff had gotten direction, but apparently they didn't get specific direction. And I want to make a motion, and I hope that I'll get a second in my comments section today, to, for the city to at least fund a table at the NAACP. I know that last year we had both staff and commissioners who were at a particular table, and I think we probably had a little bit of overflow. I would hope that we could get staff as well as commissioners, if all of us do attend with a spouse or somebody. But I at least want to make sure that I want to make this motion that we fund at least a table. I don't know if we need two tables. I could ask the city manager. I think they had actually gone and asked people who might want to go, both staff and commissioners. And if there's an overflow, I'd like to probably know if we need to have two tables or one table, or have it up to the amount of whoever is available to attend up to a certain amount. What is that suggestion so that I can complete my motion, Mr. City Manager?
So you're correct, Commissioner Clark, in your comment that I was confused after the last meeting. I went back and listened to the tape, and you had actually said you would, you said I would make a motion, and then the mayor chimed in, and when I told the mayor that the mayor couldn't make the motion, that somebody else did, there was some other discussion that went back and forth related to just getting our own tickets and things like that, and then it wasn't followed up with a motion. So the position I would take is that I looked, and last year, the city manager had, or the commission had voted to have the city manager purchase a table at the event. I had, in anticipation of the commission having me purchase a table, had started to ask staff if there were anybody that interested in going in the event certain commissioners or their significant others couldn't attend with them. And I did get some expression from some staff members that they would in fact be interested in attending. So if the board would like me to get a table for the commission, I would need a motion and second and a vote to get a table for the, and it's a 10 seats, so it's each commissioner get 2 tickets. If I did that and you weren't able to go, you could have 2 choices. You could give the tickets back to me and have me give them to staff, or you could give them to someone else that was interested in going. And then if you wanted me to get a second table, I would be happy to discuss that with staff members and give it would be 5 tickets because they'd probably bring a guest, so it would be 5 people to attend and fill the second table. And I know I've been talking to Jimmy Smith, who is here, and he was filling me in on all the activity, and it sounds like it's going to be a very successful and highly attended event with plenty of entertainment, and we will even be able to see Jimmy on the dance floor for anybody willing to go.
Well, that's worth it right there.
Right.
So I should make a motion for up to 2 tables?
That's your discretion, but yes.
That is my motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Clark. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Oh, good. All right. We have a motion and we have a second. Do I need?
Public comment.
That's it. Public comment?
Yeah.
Do we have any public comment concerning the gala? I see none. Mary?
Can I just ask, how much is this going to cost? Do we have a sense of the?
Yes, I do.
200.
It's $1,200 for a table, or $1,250 if the tickets were bought separately.
So it's 24, not 22, I misspoke.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank y'all.
Jimmy, give your name and
Yes,
address.
Jimmy Smith, President, NAACP branch, Martin County. I just want to say that why that I invite the city to be a part of this, because in order for us to really bring this city to be the best city in the state of Florida, we have to look beyond some of the things and that we can incorporate together. This is about the youth, the kids, our future, that we can grasp a hold, that we can unite all kids together, being diversity here in Stewart. The theme this year is, where will our kid future be like without your vote? Vote means in participation, involved in the schools, the county, the city, whatever could pertain to our kids, whether in the churches. And you can see that this world is if we don't capture together and join together and hold hands together, I don't know where our future here in Stewart will be. And NAACP, a lot of people feel that NAACP is only a black organization only. No, it's a national advancement for Association of Colored People. I just want to ask everybody, just take a look at the person to the left of you. Look at somebody to the right of you. See, can you find somebody the same color you are? So we all got a color. And from our heart and loving to see my city commissioners that are doing a great job uniting together and come and support, and we can meet and do great things together. We got some great ideas to bring to the city of Stewart. I was sharing with some of them earlier, and I think you all are going to be very proud of what's this going to bring, is to unite all together. And I want to thank you for your support. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes.
I'd just like to say that I have always intended to purchase my own ticket, so, Mr. Morteau, my ticket could be made available to staff.
Any more public comment? All right, we'll vote on this. We have a motion and a second, Mary.
Commissioner McDonald?
Yes.
Commissioner Collins?
Yes.
Commissioner Clark?
Yes.
Mayor Brunner?
Yes,
Vice Mayor Rich?
Yes.
very good. All in favor?
So you have directions now, Mr. Mortel.
Yes, I do.
Yeah. Madam Mayor, just want to say that in our community, and I know that Miss Helen McBride is here all the time, but we have a program at the 10th Street Recreation Center, which the Meals and Wheels comes out there and participate. And I think one of our longest members of the community, Miss Willa Mays, has passed away, and she has always been out there for the time that they've had the Meals and Wheels, and has always been an active member in our community. And I just want to just let everybody know that this wonderful lady from especially from the East Stewart community, and has worked at Zarilla Cabbage Farms and other areas in our community. And she is no longer with us. And I just know that that program out there strive because of people like her and Miss Helen McBride and others who attend the lunch program there. And Madam Mayor, I would want to say other things, but I think that it'll probably come up in other people's comments, because I just had phone calls before the meeting regarding Brightline and articles that are floating around as of this afternoon or today. But I'll just leave those comments until if they come up with anybody else. And that's it. And anything else with regard to the agenda also. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Collins?
But you got to be the first to say Brightline,
Oh, shucks. I was trying to avoid it.
though. All right. So
I did it.
even though Brightline's going on and there's a lot of energy around the affordable housing agenda item tonight, I actually wanted to talk about water. I know all of us are very aware that since the last meeting, discharges have begun. And I just wanted to say first off that I was very encouraged that most of us were there at the Rivers Coalition meeting with Colonel Booth and, Congressman
Congressman.
Mast was there. It was just so great to see. Most of us were there, and even one of the candidates running for city commission was there. So we were well represented, and that went a long way in that room when people were looking around and seeing how present the city of Stewart was, including our city attorney and city manager. So it said a lot to our commitment to water quality. And what I wanted to say first is, though I am forever committed to zero discharges, and will continue to advocate, probably in the future, once LOSM is going, for an environmental attorney to have the water quality of our estuary, hopefully one day considered by a federal judge. I think the most important battle that we're looking at right now, which is very obvious with discharges, is the fight for LOSM. And when I say that, I'll reference Congressman Mast, who brought up a really good point at that Rivers Coalition meeting when he said to Colonel Booth, in a military setting, I would never go into a battle with an old map, and he said that to Colonel Booth, and I thought that was really well said, because right now it's very confusing, the situation we're in, where we're somewhere between LORS 08 and LOSM. According to, even Major Bell, when I got to talk with him, we are under LORS with the spirit of LOSM, but we're facing discharges. The lake has been being kept deeper, i.e. LOSM, but with the wet weather and the current El Nino, that, once every 10 years kind of event that we're facing right now, we have schizophrenically reverted back to LORS 08 style discharges, which I know we're all facing, taking on the chin. I'm sure there has been a lot of pressure from the Corps and the South Florida Water Management District from the stakeholders that are around the lake. They don't necessarily want the Corps to carry that much water in their lake, but that is the deal that we have signed. We just need LOSM to be adopted. So after years of this process, we more than ever can now see that it needs to be adopted as soon as humanly possible. water needs to sit in that lake so our estuaries can be spared from the kind of damage that they're facing right now. So last time, you know, in anticipation of discharges that have since started, I asked for a letter, and all of you were very kind and on the same page with wanting to draft a letter. And I actually wanted to double that this time and ask for two. And this was the ask I'm going to ask from you guys, is one to South Florida Water Management District and one to the Corps. And this is sort of the context of what I wanted to ask you guys for, is to encourage the Corps to truly operate under LOSUM guidelines, keeping more water in the lake. Again, looking at the health and human safety of the people who live here, the ability of our river to clean itself, i.e. the oysters, you know, nearshore reefs, everything that Ben knows to ride in there. Has Ben in here? Where's Ben at? I don't see him. But secondarily to South Florida Water Management District, we all need, right now more than ever, for these guys to be our advocates as a board, being very vocal in LOSUM getting adopted as soon as possible. So if you guys were open to it, I would love for a letter to go, now that discharges have formally started, to the Corps and also to South Florida Water Management District. Again, Ben, I'm sure, can craft really great language here that's very gracious. But I'll say it one more time. Now more than ever, we need to make sure that our interests, just like a lot of the interests of the stakeholders around the lake, are being heard so that LOSUM can go forward, which I know we all feel like is a done deal, but you never know. In situations like this where we're now facing discharges and the confusion around what map we're following, like you know, Congressman Mass said, I think makes evident that we need to encourage the Corps and the district to remember us and remember our estuary, the biodiversity, and all of it. So with that, I'll yield. Thank you.
No objection.
Yes, I agree.
Thank you, guys.
Any more? Commissioner Collins?
No.
Commissioner Rich?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to point out a correction that needs to be made. And this error occurred at our last joint meeting with the county, the other cities, and the school board. And at that time, a report was made about residential units that were either permitted or in process, applications in process. And those of us in the cities in Stewart were quite happy to see the big number 0 come up with regard to 2023 in terms of the number of new units approved or in process. That actually was incorrect. If you look at the data, it was from July 1st to the end of September. So I just wanted to correct, the actual number for 2023 is the total of number of new units approved in the city of Stewart was 60 for a development on Central Parkway, Sailfish Cay, yeah, homeownership. The total for the number, just to put it in perspective, because, and the reason I want to make this correction is because I still get a great many people come up to me and said, the city is out of control with their development approvals. The county approved or are in process 5,911. Indiantown, booming little Indiantown, 2,970. So in Martin County, that's a total of 8,861 units approved, residential units approved or in process. Our 60 represents 2/3 of 1% of the total number of units approved. So I just want people to understand what's actually taking place in the city. On another note, I was lucky enough to be invited and was able to attend the graduation for Project LIFT, and I had never done that. I would like to commend Dr. Is he a doctor? Dr. Robert? Okay. Robert Zacchio for putting on a very enthusiastic graduation ceremony. This is a terrific example, I think, of a public-private partnership. And the impact he has had on these children's and young adults' life is so obvious, and their families are there. It was just terrific, and here is, children, young children, who have been having great difficulty in their lives apparently, and here they are graduating. And the HCAV kids who were engaged in that course of study, they didn't even get to graduation before they had jobs. Carpentry skills, welding skills. There was a young girl there who was the valedictorian, who's just a hair away from being a certified nurse, who had her newborn baby on her hip. And these are kids who want to work in the city of Stuart. They want to start businesses in the city of Stuart. And I just hope we're able to accommodate them at some point. And again, congratulations to Robert Zacchio and Project Lift. And the city, in fact, we're trying to work out a partnership with them. Is that correct, Mr. Mortel?
We, through our CRA, have actually already tentatively entered into an agreement with them. We have applied for and received a very successful grant that's allowed us to acquire some property, which is previously known as the Willie Gary property on Martin Luther King Boulevard, which we closed on and are the proud owners of now. And we're working forward on entering into a lease agreement with the Project Lift, which will end up providing a 12,000 square foot building on that site that'll be brand new landscape and building, and it's going to be designed to train 18 to 25-year-olds in the trades of carpentry, electrical, mechanical, plumbing, et cetera. And it's going to be actually Bob Zacchio's textbook that we'll be stealing. And it seems to have been extremely successful this far, and we're really looking forward to working with him.
And boy, I sure wish my graduation had been that much fun. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend the graduation, but as someone who came through the vocational process in high school, I'm really excited about the trade, because I think this is going to create a lot of opportunities for young people in our community to have higher paying jobs. And, a higher paying job means a better standard of living, it's a better quality of life for not just that person, but the people around them. People that have a higher quality of life have more healthy. So I'm really excited about it. And we've been working on this project for quite a while, and our CRA did a great job getting the grant. I just want to kind of touch base today at today's MPO meeting. There's a series of procedural steps you have to go through for funding of projects, transportation projects throughout the county. And today was one of those procedural. We approved the work plan. And what was nice to see on there, and this is priorities, actually our MPO priorities for the next year. And there was 19 priorities, and 5 of them were in the city of Stuart, including, 6 of them, sorry, 6 of them were in the city of Stuart, and a couple of them are pretty ambitious, but it's the fact that we're working on improving our transportation, improving our roads, improving our traffic. It's something that I've been put a lot of effort in over the years. I'm very excited about it. And it's really good to see these projects kind of getting through, because getting on the priorities is what ultimately gets them funded by federal highway in the state of Florida, and then eventually they'll get funded for design and construction. So we're working on it, but I was really pleased to see that happen. That we have so many. Considering the city of Stuart is only 7 square miles out of about 500 square miles of Martin County. And of course, I think I'll let Mr. Mortel later talk about, I'm sure he'll want to talk about the Brightline announcement today. So I'll leave it at that, and thank you very much for being here tonight.
Thank you, Commissioner McDonald. Our manager?
First, I don't actually have any specific comments for tonight, other than to say that we do have a D&D for the end of the meeting that's scheduled as a discussion and deliberation based upon an offer I had received for clarity, I want to be very clear that it is not a site plan approval. It is not a quasi-judicial proceeding. It is not us approving a development. It is not anything like that. It is an initial discussion, and therefore, there's no concern about whether or not people were notified or if enough people are aware and things like that, because it's truly an initial discussion. The other thing I was going to talk about was I had a great weekend at the Arts Fest that was downtown. It was beautiful weather. Enjoyed myself dramatically, and I'm kind of dragging my feet trying to get past the discussion that Commissioner McDonald was pointing at. But I guess I'll go there. So there was a lot of buzz today about a project we've been working very hard on. And I'll start by saying I do not officially have anything in writing that has selected any particular location for Brightline, but I can tell you that I was informed that I should notify the city commissioners and others that are interested that there was going to be an important announcement at the location of the proposed Brightline station in the city of Stuart, which is on Flagler Avenue next to the courthouse in that parking lot on March 11th. This afternoon at 3 o'clock, after all of the conversation, that changed. And I was told that it might be March 4th. So as of right now, what I know for sure is that a very important announcement is going to happen either on March 4th or March 11th, and it's likely to happen at the parking lot next to the courthouse on Flagler Avenue in Stuart. But to be official and to give a statement is that I don't have anything in writing, and I can say, you know, we applied for an enormous grant to replace the railroad bridge going over the river, and before Christmas, we were notified by a very reliable source on that matter, and it was Congressman Mask in that particular instance that told us that he had helped us secure the funding for that grant. However, we didn't get a letter until almost the end of January from the Florida Department of the Federal Department of Transportation as it related to that grant, and it truly wasn't official until we got that particular letter. So I can't officially say that I have any more information than maybe anybody else, other than I am very familiar with the location that the announcement would be made at, and I would really be surprised that there would be a suggestion that we be invited to that location to tell us we were the wrong application. That wouldn't be so great, but that's really all I have on it.
Okay, thank you. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
Move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Okay, any comment? Any comment from the public? Mary, roll.
All in favor?
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All ayes, no nays. Okey-doke, let's see. Oh, comments from the public. Helen? And we do have some members comment from the public on item 7. This is just general.
Non-agenda items, right?
That's right, non-agenda.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, hon. Helen McBride from Flamingo Avenue. And to follow through on Commissioner Clark, at the 10th Street Rec Center every day from 10:30 to 12:30, it's not only just Meals on Wheels, but we have arts and crafts, we have physical fitness, we have people coming to help in case you need help at home or that, and how to eat healthier, your nutrition and that. There's a lot more. At least one day a week, we do slip in bingo. But it's getting us all out. Now, the reason I'm up here talking, at the last meeting, when I was talking about parking down at by Flagler Park or Hudson on the River, and I know our new city manager, he may not realize it, but I've gone through 5 or 6 city managers, and I've always sat in the same exact chair. So he probably doesn't realize that. And at the meeting where you were saying about Hudson on the River could put out cones and anybody could park there, in my mind, I thought it was 6 or 8 parking spots. Now, I've been coming down, and it's getting worse, Hudson on the River. This Saturday, they had so many cones out, even the 2 parking spots for the railroad people, they had cones there to park cars. Now, when I'm talking to people, we have a wonderful police department and the crime watch and the sheriff's department, and they constantly are on us about locking our cars, locking your cars. Now, you 5 seem to think it's going to be all right for me to come down, hand my car keys with my house keys on it to some valet person I've never met in my life. And I'm from the old school, where we keep money, you know, some little change, what used to be a dime to always call home, or a quarter. You're endangering, and now, I'll go with the fisherman, because Bob was a fisherman. I've never met a fisherman yet who didn't go fishing, and they didn't expect to end up in the water, but they usually do. So they are going, well, maybe you don't, Mr. Rich, but when they go, they leave their things in the car. Our fishermen, and I should say fisherwomen, because some of the women have been talking to me, they're not going to hand over their keys to a complete stranger. Now, I think you should readdress it, because let's face it, Hudson on the River and the boathouse are owned by the same gentleman. He built boathouse, and he's using our city parking lot. Now, he built Hudson on the River, and now he wants to take the public parking, that whole area down by the bridge, the fishermen. You've got to stop. We elected 5 people to represent we the people. And I'm all for the business people, you know that. I was here when this was the ghost town, downtown. I'm for the business people, but not on the back of the ordinary person who likes to go fishing, or like myself, when I have Joseph visiting with me, go down and watch the trains, and we walk, and he likes to sit there and watch a bridge go up and down. You've got to readdress it. You've got to serve the people and not just one business. Thank you very much.
I had said at the last meeting I would speak with Helen, and I have, and gone down there many times. I do believe, as the mayor, may I bring, would like to bring it up for discussion sometime, or the
You
the
can,
next meeting?
you can discuss whatever you'd like. You're the mayor.
Okay. Because it is a real concern. My first thoughts when Hudson was going in were those 3 parking spaces for the fishermen. The railroad track has taken it over. I've gone down there all hours of the day and 8 or 9 at night. The fishermen, a lot of them fish on the old Roosevelt, and they'll park on both sides, or they'll park and go down under. They'll park on my goodness, can't remember the old US one, Dixie, and go down under and get to the boardwalk. But, and I agree that they're not going to just give their old car or their new car or whatever they're driving. These are fishermen. My nephew goes down there and fishes all the time, and he's a young man, and he can, park over where the bathrooms are further down. But I agree. He owns both of the restaurants, and this is something that we asked, and it's fallen through. It's not working. So if we can have another discussion, or what other commissioners think, but the railroad has taken those first 3 parking places and taken down the signs that we had for the fishermen. That was our parking spot. Commissioner
Mike,
Commissioner Collins?
what is the current status of that agreement? Do we have flexibility to even amend what's going on down there? Kind of
So-
refreshing
I'm
me,
not-
because I wasn't, that
So
deal
for-
was before
I'm
I
not-
even got
so-
here. I'm kind of curious what the logistics are.
For what it's worth, I've never actually polled the fishermen to see if they were residents of Stewart or customers of Stewart, where they are, and I don't think it matters. But when the restaurant was opening, I believe the city manager was David Dice at the time, but he put an agenda item on to treat that parking lot the same way that we treated the other surplus land that we received from FDOT when they built the new bridge, because that was the same land that we received on the other side of Sunset Bay Marina. And what happened there was Sailor Returns, they said Sailor Return is going to provide valet parking, and anybody can park there, and they can't charge to valet, and anybody can park there and walk the boardwalk and go fishing off the sides or whatever. And then on the other side, people can park on Dixie and walk up to fish. There's a fishing pier that goes directly off underneath the Roosevelt Bridge. When the commission voted to allow Hudson's to have valet parking, it was conditioned upon it had to be open to the public and anybody could park there, and they can't charge for valet. And at the time, I believe it was the first 3 spaces were dedicated to fishermen on the bridge. About, I think it was August or September, the FEC the FEC notified us that it was revoking those 2 parking spaces and reserving them for the railroad bridge tenders that were also a requirement that happened several years ago as part of the Martin County arrangement with the railroad. So the first 2 spaces are now dedicated to this FEC railroad bridge tenders. The 3rd space, I believe, is still dedicated to the fishermen, but then it goes to the valet spots that the commission had voted on.
How many of those spots are tied up in the valet?
I don't know how many it is, because what happens is, when you valet it, you can actually add about 25% more cars, because they don't actually park them right on the spaces. Because of valets, they park them
Right.
tighter.
But off the top of your head, you don't know the physical number of spots?
I honestly don't have the top of my head, but the board could not do it. The
Could
board
we
could amend it.
a little bit?
The board could direct me to add 2 more spaces
Something.
for the fishermen. And I don't honestly know, my experience with fishing is that when the tide is changing is when fishing is better than when it's slack. And so as a result, the fishermen are there at it's a moving schedule, because as that 6-hour tide swing changes, it shifts when the hot fishing is. And hot fishing tomorrow might be at 10 a.m., and then 3 months from now, it might be at 10 p.m. or 8 p.m. or 6 p.m. or whatever. I think the valet parking is Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So, but I don't know if it's Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, but you guys could also address that, and you could say, it's not on this day, or it is on that day. And
Could we actually make it a D&D potentially? It seems like there might be some interest in talking about it. I'd like to come.
Well, that's what she had asked me to bring
Formally,
it back
so we're
as an
not chewing
agenda
up
item.
all of this
Um,
time right
so-
now.
If you want, there's a couple of ways to do it. I could bring it back as an agenda item that you can vote on with a new resolution, or a D&D, whatever is your reference. I mean, if I bring it up as a resolution and you don't vote to change it, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
So it's probably easier just to do it as a resolution.
And we
if
can
that's the
amend it
pleasure of
at
the
that
board,
moment if we, yeah.
if you're inclined.
I would like to do that if you all are okay.
Second.
Okay,
Madam Mayor, could I just make a comment?
yes.
I mean, I don't want to discount the concerns of the fishermen, but I asked a half a dozen people who've lived in this town for decades, and I said, did you know that the valet is available to you when you go down to the Hudson? And they had no idea. Nobody has any idea that valet is available to the public. So it's de facto handing them all, and when people see cones, they're, all they see is that those are not accessible to them. So we've got more problems than just these. And yes, we need to talk about this further.
Thank you, Commissioners. Anyone else?
So how soon is it gonna come back, Mr. Mortel?
I was thinking next November. No. I'm kidding. Come on, it'll be the next meeting. Man, you guys are tough.
Don't mess with Helen.
No, and Helen, you're right. There's many more cones out now than there have been.
Getting
It will
worse,
be
getting worse.
This-
Well,
It'll be the first meeting in March.
Well, we have a
Oh.
motion.
Mr. Martell, we should notify
Mike.
Hudson's to
I
let
will.
them know, because obviously they
Yeah.
probably need to be here since
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
affected by it.
Let him know of
And they're our tenant, so.
our great concerns. We have a motion, we have a second. Do we have anyone from the public like to make any comments?
Was there a motion? I'm sorry, I missed an
It
actual
was,
motion.
they just gave me a consensus, there was no motion.
Yeah, we don't need a
Oh,
motion.
okay, we don't,
Right.
we're not, okay. All right, then we will move on. Let's see. Sean Reed, please come forward. Am I doing the? Yeah, yeah.
Hello, my name's Sean Reed. This one's for Commissioner Rich. So the city of Stewart's 8.5 square miles and Martin County's 753 square miles. To put it into perspective for you as far as what Martin County's approved, we're also in the city of Stewart, not Martin County, so. Also, I want to talk about just being born and raised here. My name's Sean Reed. I was born in Martin County. I've been here for 34 years. Some of my family's been here for 50 years. A lot of us are very proud coming from this area. And I look at the commission, and we all move here for a reason, right? We want to protect the quality of life. We want to vote to protect the quality of life. There's been a bunch of apartments that have been approved that obviously affect traffic. Now we have a Brightline station coming in. I would imagine everybody sitting up here doesn't like driving in the city of Stewart. I don't think anybody can agree with that. I know I can't, and I drive around quite a bit. I'd imagine most of you do up here as well. Also, now we have affordable housing that they finally want to fix. We've approved 2,250 apartments and townhomes. It didn't fix it, did it? Now everybody in this crowd wants to fix it, and everybody wants it until it's in your backyard, and then you don't want it. I would imagine most of us want to fix it as long as it's not next to us, right? And then what are we going to do? Lose more baseball fields again? Because it's going to be right next to it. They're going to want to develop that then as well. You know, as a child here, we used to play outside, right? You can't do that anymore. You're going to get ran down by a car, I'd imagine. I drive around in neighborhoods. I don't see kids. We have to travel to go to a park now to even play, to enjoy what we have. We don't even have Bathtub Beach anymore. I'd imagine some of you might have, been there as a kid. I went there quite a bit. You can't enjoy it anymore. I'm hoping come August 20th, we'll see some change in the city of Stewart, and, we'll see what happens. Have a good night. Thank you.
Mr. Brinkley, Albert Brinkley?
Hey, thank you all for having me here. My name is Albert Brinkley, proud resident of East Stewart community. I'm here with the matter that I was to the Development Department on Friday to get an application for right-of-way abandonment. And when I went through the discussion with them, when it came to the prices that I would have to pay, I'm here to tell you I am highly upset. You want to know why? Because the city of Stewart ran drainage pipes through my property, and to this day, it's almost 30 years, no one has given me an answer why were those pipes went through my property. And I end up with some property that the city had, which is a lot smaller than the property that I would have had my house on Tarpon Avenue, which Mr. Smith and them have the property now. Nobody have given me an answer, but yet for the right-of-way that I'm trying to get, I have to pay for something that you all, not specifically talking you all, that the city created with me. There's a right-of-way behind my house that I rightfully should have, because like I said, the property that I would have had on Tarpon Avenue is a lot bigger than what I have now. And nobody to this day, and again I reiterate, it's almost 30 years, and nobody have given me an answer why were those drainage pipes ran through my property behind the police department, and that was my property where my house supposed to have been built. And when I came and got the paperwork Friday to fill out for the abandonment, the right-of-way behind my house, then I'm confronted with, Mr. Brinkley, this is what it's going to cost you. It shouldn't cost me nothing, Because you all basically, as I can stand here and say, took my property, and now I have to pay you all for something that the city created? I deserve some answers. Why would I have to pay for something that the city created? And that is not right. In the sight of God, that is not right. My property was taken, and I reiterate, a lot smaller than the property on Tarpon Avenue. So why, and I want to answer from somebody, because like I say, almost 30 years, why would I have to pay you all for something a problem that you all created?
Mr. Brinkley, we'll look into this. I know nothing about it, but I will be happy to look into it for you.
And I appreciate that, Mayor Bruno, because that is not right, y'all. And I would appreciate it if someone looked into that and see why would I have to pay for something. And I asked that engineer that particular day, I didn't tell him that it was my property. I say, why are y'all running pipes through somebody's property? And he looked at me like he was lost. He couldn't even give me an answer. I say, that's somebody's property right there that y'all running those pipes to. And he just looked at me, he was puzzled. So I would like to know why would I have to pay for abandonment behind my house when the city basically took my property? That is not fair, you all, and God is not pleased with that.
And Mr. Brinkley, so that I can do the research on it, you're talking about a property you still currently own, or is it a property you used to own that had the pipes under it?
And it runs from Tarpon behind the police department, and my house was going to go there.
But do you still own it if I
No,
look
no,
in
no,
there?
no.
Okay, so-
I think it ended up in, the city has the lot where the pipes went through, but that whole lot was my property. And where the city ran the pipes through, it's blocked off. But where the pipes ran at, that whole situation was where my house was gonna go.
I believe it's stormwater, but can you give me the address of what the property was?
I don't, well, you have to speak with Mr. Sims, because he's more familiar. I don't know the address where it is on Tarpon Avenue. And what happened was, the city, where I am now, the city owned that property, and that's where things got switched. But
Right.
where I am now is smaller than where I would have been.
Mike, do we have the discretion to waive his fees for his application for the right-of-way abandonment?
You have the discretion to waive the privilege fee for the right-of-way abandonment. I don't know enough about the right-of-way abandonment at this point to comment on it one way or the other, nor do I know what fees were quoted. At the
What
time,
did
we
they
just
quote
have
you,
to
Albert?
review it. But it was my recollection that back then, and I wasn't here, but didn't the city give you the house and property that you're living in now in exchange for it?
This house, yeah, no, what happened, my house was originally went there.
Right.
And when the pipes got put on that property, then I had to end up with the property that the city had. That's where I am now, wasn't originally where I was supposed to have been.
Right, but didn't they
That's
give-
why
but-
I am.
But the city built the house and made you whole then, right?
The city didn't build that. It was, well, the original house was moved. That house got torn down because the city, another problem they did, dig up crawl space, and that created, because where I am now, that whole area, I've lived there since I was a little kid. That's always been a low-lying area. That area where I am, it's always been low-lying ever since I was a kid. In other words, it holds water. And what created was water stayed up under my house. So I had to rebuild, that house had to be torn down and rebuilt.
Okay.
Where I am now. But the property was switched. You all end up with the property where I was supposed to have been, and I end up with the property where the city had owned.
And and just for clarification, right now, you have an application to have
I went,
the right-of-way abandoned, that's a part of your property behind it or in front of it?
behind
And that's
my
the fee
house.
that you're referencing? That fee is what you're talking about?
Well,
Commissioner Collins?
Just for clarity.
Yeah, and and for what it's worth, that is important to me too, because the commission, when you adopted the East Stewart future land use, there was some significant discussion about the fact that the city had been disengaging from some right-of-ways, and the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council had the board discuss the abandonment of right-of-ways, and the board voted that they wanted to continue maintaining those right-of-ways and not to abandon them, because they could be used as future pedestrian paths and other things, which is why it's the application process and everything is in place, because some of those were actually adopted and specifically identified in that form-based code. I don't know which one this is, and I'm happy to look into it.
We will. There's so much
Right.
going on that we don't
Yeah.
know setting up here, so we need to get all that information, and we will. We'll get
Yeah,
back
because
with you.
I'm sorry for interrupting you, but this right away don't lead to nothing. It's just behind 4 or 5 houses. Don't lead to nowhere. It doesn't lead to nowhere. And it's not fair that I get put in this situation and have to dole out money when originally you all put pipes through my property. I just don't, in the sight of God, I just don't see that being fair.
Albert,
It's not fair.
send me the info, okay? Shoot it to me and we'll sort it out.
We will,
Thank you all
yes,
very
we will move on now. Jimmy Smith, Mr. Smith?
I think to verify, Mr. Smith, I think the property he's talking about, I think my father bought 20 feet of that property. They're off Top Pond. 10 feet remained the same for that the city had drainage running through that property. I don't own the property, but my stepmother owned the property. I think it's up for sale. I think that's the property you're talking about, right? Mr. Brinkley? I don't know anything about what
All right.
happened in that term. But I'm here to just talk on the good things that I hear the young man was speaking about, the housing. Everybody is talking about traffic, this and that, about what's going on in the city of Stewart. And we talking about people that lives in the city of Stewart being here all our lives. With rattlesnakes and dirt roads. And we watch our communities, people move in with money, funds, and just bulldoze over everything. We accept it, understand that people want trying to get a good living, but I also want people to understand that how people that been paving the way, that been pineapple workers, worked in these fields and tilled the ground here all these years, and then marched over. But then people come here for a few years and say, oh, we want this. We come here and move here. Man, I want to tell you, whoever listening out here, it's people been dying and struggling all their lives to live here. And then nobody have respect for the people that have paid the way here. Some people live out of town, come here, and then want to just bulldoze everybody. Have respect for the people that live here. We need housing. They need low end. They need to be affordable. They don't have good jobs. You know what I'm saying? They made it where easier for other people to become wealthy off the backs of their work, and we don't even have no caring and consideration. I thank y'all, City Commissioner, for not listening in and caring if they won't even not trying to get some things done. It's irrelevant. I understand how people feel angry, talking about coming downtown. Man, downtown always been this way. And we're gonna need more parking, we're gonna need all that, but people need places to live. East Stewart almost gone. All the families at George Taylor gone, at Post St. Lucie, all the places that was at there at Cherokee, it's gone. We lost over 300 families out of East Stewart. 300 families. And that all I'm saying is that so many people come and want to bombard the city and get on you or saying by passing some rules with y'all care. You know people need housing. You know that. So let's stay on board. We're talking about the election. Yes, NAACP is forming at least 75 people. Yes, we're going to pave the streets and get people to vote for you all that stand for the rightness of our community. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I have no other public comment.
Madam Mayor, I move for approval of the consent
Second.
calendar, the 3 items.
Second.
We have the approval, we have a second, and is there any public comment? All right, we'll vote on this.
Commissioner McDonald?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Rich?
Yes?
Mayor Brunner?
Yes.
Commissioner Collins?
Yes.
Commissioner Clark?
Yes.
Okay, that's the end of our consent calendar. We're going to go into commission action. I will read this part, and Lee, you'll read the resolution. Portion of Southeast Arapahoe Avenue right-of-way abandonment.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Resolution number 14-2024, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Stuart, Florida, declaring pursuant to Chapter 36 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Stuart, Florida, the intention of the City Commission to abandon and to set public hearings in City Commission chambers to consider the abandonment of a 50-foot wide public right-of-way within the city, being the portion of Southeast Arapahoe Avenue more clearly described in Exhibit A attached, providing an effective date and for other purposes.
Okay, thank you. Michelle, is that you back there?
Yes, I'm
Okay.
getting ready.
You're going to give us a presentation.
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners. For the record, my name is Michelle Arbazow. I'm a planner in the City of Stuart Development Department. Tonight, I am presenting agenda item number 4, an intention to the abandonment of portion of Southeast Arapahoe Avenue right-of-way. The Development Department received a request from the property owners Todd Britt and Carla Williamson, located on the west side of the right-of-way at 825 Southeast 13th Street. The existing right-of-way is 50 feet wide, as depicted in red. The 10th Street Sports Complex is located north of the subject right-of-way. The owners of the real property, Todd Britt and Carla Williamson, located at 825 Southeast 13th Street, have requested the abandonment of a 50-foot entire Southeast Arapahoe Avenue public right-of-way. I'm sorry, that's portion of Southeast Arapahoe Avenue right-of-way. The city's Public Works Department has determined that the use of the right-of-way is no longer in the public's best interest and does not object to the abandonment of the city's interest. The procedure for abandonment of the city-owned right-of-way is governed by Section 36-3 of the city's Code of Ordinances, which requires the City Commission to first pass a resolution declaring the intent to abandon the right-of-way. The vacation or change of any street, alley, road, or public way shall be accomplished by our ordinance. The City Commission may include in one ordinance the changes of name or vacation or narrowing of more than one street, avenue, or alley while vacating any street or part thereof, or changing its name. But before vacating any streets or part thereof, or narrowing any street, avenue, or alley, the City Commission shall first pass a resolution declaring its intention to do so. The 1925 recorded plat identifies the 50-foot wide right-of-way outlined in red. Staff recommends approving resolution number 14-2024, a declaration of interest to abandon certain right-of-way within the city's limits.
Madam Mayor, move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion for approval and a second. Any discussion with the commissioners?
Is it quasi-judicial?
Just that if we're
I
going to do
didn't know.
this for
Yeah.
this applicant, that we'll also do it for Albert if he gets his paperwork in. Seems only fair.
Just so you're clear,
You can't
all that
trust
we're doing is moving forward. It doesn't waive anything, it's just moving it forward. So in order to do a right-of-way abandonment,
You
the
have to
first thing that comes
make
before the
it-
commission is a resolution authorizing the city to move forward. Then the applicant has to pay for a survey to survey the abandonment part. Then the value and a survey and appraisal comes back to the commission for a 2-reading ordinance, and that is when the commission can waive the privilege fee or not. But this is just part of the same procedure that would
I
have been
understand.
done.
I'm saying just in reference to, you mentioned with form-based code in East Stewart that we're trying to hold on to right-of-ways. That's why I said.
Right, well, that's why we can't just straight do it. We have to have it come through you guys as a process.
Yeah. we could do that. Do we have
Madam
any-
Mayor?
Yes.
So it goes, this abandonment goes right between these two houses, so will ownership be split between those two houses, or how does that work?
Eventually.
When the city abandons a right-of-way, it doesn't transfer ownership to anybody. All it does is lift the city's right-of-way off of the original plat. As a result, the case law and history on the right-of-ways says that 50% of the road goes to one adjacent property and 50 goes to the other. We had a right-of-way abandonment where Palm Beach Road was supposed to go through to Riverside Drive several years ago, and that particular right-of-way wasn't 50-50. It was a 50-foot right-of-way, and the underlying plat showed that 20 feet went to one side and 30 feet went to the other side. So in that instance, that would reconcile it. But we don't give a deed. We don't say, here's a quitclaim deed or a title deed or anything. We just record an abandonment of our right-of-way, and then the property owners, if they have a dispute over that, would have to take that up among themselves.
One of the owners came to the city and said, I want to build an ADU, and I got to be 10 feet off my property line. Would we allow him then to go that extra, let's say, 10 feet over? Or would his survey indicate that no, in fact?
Well, you're assuming we abandoned the property, the right-of-way?
Yeah.
So if he and his neighbor had resolved it and the underlying plat gave 100% of the right-of-way to his neighbor, it wouldn't change his setbacks at all. If the right-of-way is 20 feet wide and he got an additional 20 feet, his property line would then become, again, it would be his responsibility to get a survey, to get the plat, to go to the property appraiser, to get a new parcel ID, to get a new legal description, to do all that stuff. And when he made application for that ADU or the expansion of the pool or the porch or
Right.
whatever it is, the lot that he presents to planning would be the lot that they use to review it, and they'd verify it on the public records. And if the property appraiser or the public records didn't reflect that his property was his, then it would have to be addressed.
Madam Mayor?
Thank you.
We had that issue with that property that bonded up with Snug Harbor, where,
Right.
where one party actually didn't want the property, and it was very confusing and challenging, but, so, anyways.
Do we have any comments from the public that would like to speak on this? You have to sign out a green slip when you're through. Yes. Thank you, ma'am.
Hi, everyone. I'm Carla Williamson. I'm one half of the party that is asking for this request. I thought I'd give you a little bit of precedence as well. So unfortunately
Could you give us your name?
Oh, yeah,
and
Carla
your
Williamson.
address?
Carla Williamson, and I live at 825 Southeast 13th Street. And so actually, when we bought the house in 2021, the whole entire abandonment was like broken asphalt, glass, and while I was beautifully looking after my property one day, there was an arrest made. A kid tried to run through the field. I don't know, and they got stopped. Innocent child, right? But because that area just looks so abandoned, it's an area that cars can just sit. And so we have 2 little boys, and so do our neighbors. And we just want to keep that beautiful, safe environment. And unfortunately, as well, what happened to us, and might give you a bit of pity, I was going to bring this in hopefully if you did approve the next one. My family actually lost our home in 2022 to a fire on Christmas Eve morning. And so we've been...
A fire? You said fire?
Yeah, our whole house is completely, it's actually a shell. You'll go past it, it looks fine, but inside is completely ruined, and it's really, really sad, and I'm surprised
It's okay.
Yeah, so, but we have to rebuild, and so the idea is that our neighbor will agree to the 50-50, and it just allows us to, put a garage opening on that side, or, so on. So we're not trying to do anything crazy, and I think actually our neighbor currently has paved his side of it. So it's kind of like old school rules that were inherited, and I'm sorry, just old stuff from a long time ago. So we just want to make the city so much better. We believe in it, we invest in it. where we want to put our roots. I do have an accent. I am not from Stuart. I'm from Australia, but I love Stuart. I
No.
call it, no. Yeah, I love Stuart. Like, I've lived everywhere, and this is where I wanted to, like, buy a house and call home with my kids. So,
Thank you, thank you.
Oh.
Awesome. Okay, we had a motion by, for approval by Commissioner McDonald, a second by Commissioner Clark. Do a vote now. Roll, Mary?
Commissioner McDonald?
Yes.
Commissioner Clark?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Rich?
Yes.
Mayor Brunner?
Yes.
Commissioner Collins?
Madam Mayor, may I make just one more comment? You got my name backwards on
Oh,
this.
I'm sorry. I apologize.
It's easy to do.
He's a rich guy.
Yeah.
Also, happy birthday, Mary, right?
Thank you.
All right, now we're going to move on to
Should we say?
the next one, proclamation policy update.
Putting this on me? I'll let him read it first.
Yeah,
Resolution number 25-2024, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Stuart, Florida, amending Resolution 56-09 by reestablishing a policy for the issuance of proclamations by the mayor and city commission and concurrently approving and adopting an updated City of Stuart proclamation policy, providing an effective date and for other purposes.
I don't know if anybody's had an opportunity to review the proclamation policy or not, but I've been meeting with the clerk on this matter, and we had been discussing it for some time. The last time the proclamation policy was updated or reviewed was, I believe, in 2009, and it wasn't in the format that you'll find before you today. The clerk had put it together in a more of an outline form so that it's easier to kind of follow and to determine the criteria. It's essentially the same as it was before. However, I wanted to bring it to your attention to discuss it because I know that we have 2 meetings a month, but a couple years ago, the commission voted to adjust those meetings so that one of the meetings starts at 4 p.m., and during that meeting, we do proclamations and other service events and other announcements. And the last meeting started at 4, and we finished the proclamations and got to finished the consent agenda, which is generally pretty quick, at 6:15. So it took 2 hours and 15 minutes to get to the agenda. And so one of the discussions I wanted to bring up, and again, it's totally the discretion of the board, and it's, I'm looking for direction, but we're asking, number one, at minimum, that you adopt this policy as an updated proclamation policy, which is essentially a reminder of what the rules are, of what the proclamations are, and what they aren't. And then the other thing I was looking for is, did you want staff to limit the number of proclamations that are added to any particular agenda? And we could do one of two things. We could either just have it be first come, first serve and have it whatever number you want, or we could allow however many proclamations come in, but we could have the mayor sign those proclamations but only read a specific number at the meeting unless one of the commissioners contacted me and made like a special exception because of something. There'd be certain proclamations that would go forward no matter what every year, and I'm thinking of like the MLK Day proclamation would be a standard proclamation that would always come through.
of the American
Well, there's certain ones that have been standardized and go through that we do every year, but now, I know recently there was a situation where we actually had 2 groups have the same proclamation on the same meeting. And it would seem that in that situation, I'd be happy to have the mayor sign one of them and then just do one proclamation for that content rather than multiple proclamations for the same content. But again, if you guys would rather keep it the way it is and go forward, I'm happy to do it. Or if you have any other feedback as it relates to the policies and procedures in the proposed proclamation, please
I don't
let me
think
know.
it's really the proclamations that take up the time. I think we take up the time in our commission comments. And that's why the meetings go
Okay.
long, so, I mean, I can tell you the people who come and get proclamations and come, they're very excited about it. This is an opportunity, and yeah, occasionally we do, once in a blue moon, we get where you have the two groups with a same or similar proclamation. But these proclamations are very important to the community, and I hate to deny people the opportunity to come and get one.
Okay.
Any other commissioners want to speak on it? Yes.
Mike,
Commissioner
I like your
Collins?
idea of you are formally showing recognition by having a signed proclamation, but maybe having a limited number that actually make it up to presentation that, staff has deemed are the most relevant and appropriate, so that it's not like, National Chiropractors Day or something, when a lot of people have come here to speak to a specific item. It's not just our time, it's the people who come here. So that there's more time for us where we're not completely exhausted for public comment and to hear, relative items versus who knows what.
So I'd be looking for a motion to approve this policy, and I'll start paying attention to that, and I'll kind of report back to you guys.
To give it
as
a
that comes
number,
forward.
just off the top of my head, maybe 3 proclamations, just winging it. I don't know,
Okay.
just to throw one out there.
I'll,
I'm willing to approve the policy
as drafted.
provided, as drafted.
And I don't want it to limit it to where the next meeting, we absolutely don't have any proclamations. If we need to have a proclamation, I don't want to say that it's just on the first Monday. I know that we want to limit the number that come in front of us, but if we do need to have a proclamation, are we saying that we'll never have a proclamation on the second meeting and everything has to stay once a month?
We haven't had a proclamation in the second meeting of the month in 3 years.
Because we've just been taking care of it all on the
right.
first meeting.
That's why we start at 4 PM. The theory was that when you get applicants here that are paying for their architects and engineers and
Yeah, it
and
just takes too
professionals,
long.
to have them at $1,000 an hour get here and wait for 2 hours for that kind of stuff. So what we did is we started at 4 o'clock, and then we published that the agenda items start at 5:30. So if we had ever finished before 5:30, we would actually have to wait until 5:30 to start those items. We've never had that problem. So,
Maybe we should have Ed speak to how the county is so much more efficient, Commissioner Campy being here.
We'll
Yeah.
just,
So
we do
this,
the Campy proclamation.
this, yes.
So this is actually a common topic of discussion when I get together with other elected officials. Our policy seems to be the most antiquated at this point. A common change is that while the proclamation is being read, you would be in the well having the photo taken, and rather than having you run up and down and back and forth, we can expedite it that way. But most of the other municipalities, this is it's a problem we all share, obviously, and Mike makes very good points regarding the cost for the staff of the applicant. Most municipalities seem to limit it to a degree, so if we can implement a means of accomplishing that and see how it goes, Commissioner Clark, then I would.
What I'll do is, if we adopt this proclamation, as we move forward, I'll start asking people if they would accept it just by the mayor and make, if they're indifferent toward coming to the meeting, I'll start trying to shave those off, and if that works, then we won't have to do anything formally.
Thank you, Mike.
But we still need a vote on the
Yeah.
motion.
So I made a motion, anybody second it?
Did
I'll second.
Commissioner Clark, you did, right. We have a motion by Commissioner McDonald, second by Commissioner Clark. Is there anyone in the audience want to speak on this item?
Commissioner Campy?
Okay, yes. Before I move forward, I'd like to say that our county commissioners is in the back there, back seat. All the lights are on you. We're glad you're here. Yeah. Anyway, so we'll since we don't have any public comment, we'll move forward and do a roll.
Commissioner Collins?
Yes.
Mayor Brunner?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Rich?
Yes.
Commissioner Clark?
yes.
Commissioner McDonald?
Okay. Updated procurement policy. Lee?
Sure, Madam Mayor. Resolution number 23-2024 a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Stuart, Florida, approving the updated procurement policy for the city, providing an effective date and for other purposes.
Do you have any comments from anyone?
For the record, as far as this item is concerned, I'm going to have the city attorney present it to you because it primarily included an appeals process that he has drafted on our behalf. So
Sure.
why don't you take it away?
Sure. I was assisting Elena on just updating. She wanted to do some updates. Obviously, you have a copy attached to the agenda item, which has the underlines and red markings of the redactions and additions. Primarily, 11.1 is a dispute procedure, which my time at working at the county in Port St. Lucie, I had worked on something like this before where we needed a dispute procedure that we did not have one in our policy. And we had an issue in my prior employment that I looked up a statute that required to have the dispute procedure, which we did not have one. So that's 11.1 is probably the biggest change or addition. Some of the others, we were like updating the address. You know, the procurement division moved to the Wells Fargo building, but we still had our address here as far as sending notice to our procurement department. I just cleaned up a lot of things while I was making changes. Way things were written and spelled out. I saw some grammatical changes that didn't really change anything. I was cleaning them up to make them look better. But that's primarily the biggest differences is what I've mentioned already.
Great. Thank you, Lee. That is cleaned up. Do we have a?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I make a motion that we approve resolution number 2324 regarding the updated procurement policy.
Second.
Okay. Any other comments from the commissioners? We have any comment from the public? Would like to
Madam
speak?
Mayor, can I make a comment now that I've made the motion?
Yes.
I just want to thank our new city attorney for taking the initiative to do this and to bring us into the modern world.
You're welcome.
And we appreciate that. I know that Jolie has done a lot in finance, and the internet people have done a lot, and it's good to see that our legal department is trying to get out there ahead to do some things. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Clark. All right, we'll take a roll, Mary.
Mayor Brunner,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Rich,
Yes.
Commissioner McDonald,
Yes.
Commissioner Clark,
Yes.
Commissioner Collins.
Yes.
Okay. We don't have a second reading or a first reading. We're going to move on to discussion and deliberation. Number 7, discussion and deliberation of an unsolicited proposal from the Green Mills Group. Green Mills? Mitch, please
Just
come
briefly,
forward.
before he starts, I just wanted to say, we received this offer, and under the way that the public-private partnerships work, municipalities have the right to consider and move forward on these types of matters without the need for RFPs and other stuff, so it's in compliance with procurement. I told the Green Mills Group that they would be allowed to do a PowerPoint or quick presentation to you guys, so I'll let them handle it, and if you guys have any questions, I would ask that you defer them to him.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate your time today. My name is Mitch Rosenstein. I'm a principal of Green Mills Group. We're based in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I live in Delray, technically unincorporated Palm Beach, about 45 minutes away from here. Before I start the presentation, I want to say that we've been hoping to be in a position to develop affordable housing in Martin County for the better part of a decade. I don't need to tell you all or anyone in the audience that the political climate and the opposition was fierce, but I haven't given up. What we're proposing today is appropriate and actually affordable housing. The renderings, the site plan, these are all draft. Obviously, they're subject to input from staff and from the community and for local building codes and for the neighborhood improvement plan. But it's a starting point nonetheless. A little bit about us. all we do is affordable and workforce housing development. That's all we do. Affordable and workforce housing development in Florida. With the exception of our nonprofit partnerships, about 4 of them, we own and operate all of our communities. We have no intentions of selling any of our communities. We are not mercenaries. We're still pretty young and we have energy. And I make another point later in the presentation about that. We just completed our 13th community in Lakeland. A lot of parallels between that site, that opportunity in the city of Lakeland, and the one that we envision for the Southeast MLK Boulevard City Garage Lot. We're going to talk more about that in a second. We have experience with local government partnerships. I already mentioned the City of Lakeland, Citrus County, Polk County, City of Fort Lauderdale, Broward County, City of St. Petersburg, Pinellas County, Miami-Dade County. This is the nature of our business, is working closely with local governments and probably more importantly, working closely with neighbors. I asked Michelle, who's in back, if I could call her out by name. She gave me an earful before this, and I've been thinking about it ever since, and I wrote her a note. On the fly, we're going to make some changes based on feedback from Michelle and from the gentleman she was with, and I'll describe what I'm talking about. This is so cringy, I don't even want to do it. We have a video from a grand opening of a community that we developed in Central Florida. Also many parallels, it's hard, sometimes it's hard to see yourself on video, but we're going to try to play this so that you can hopefully get a feel for who we are and what we build. I don't know if I can do it from here. You might be able to kind of scroll over. Yeah. Other commissioners. I think the audio is not working. We're gonna plow forward. But that's the community. That's Auburn Village in Polk County. 100% affordable. All of our homes there are at I believe 80% and below of Polk County's median income. 80% and below. And we had to agree to a 50-year affordability period, 50 years. We assume that that's one of our residents who spoke at the grand opening. We assume that our properties are going to be affordable.
We can't hear the sound. Let's not play the video.
Yeah, I'm gonna let's see if I can move forward. Okay. We did a lot of research, obviously, and I'm going to quote a little bit from the city's 2017 Housing Action Plan. Much of Stewart's housing stock is characterized by aging structures in need of hardening. Affordability challenges for the working class. This is one of our notes. The city hasn't had a new formally affordable housing community of more than 32 units, 32 homes since 2012. So it's been over a decade, and the smallest new formally affordable community was 32 homes. There needs to be a focus of new housing in areas adjacent to employment centers and transportation. City should offer incentives to developers who are willing to include a percentage of below market rate units as part of their residential products. Now, I minored in economics, and I believe in the laws of supply and demand. So I do think that supply side will help with the affordable housing crisis that we have. There is also a place for the Habitat for Humanities and for the Green Mills groups to do formally designated affordable housing that's appropriate. There's also a note in the action plan to use TIF to support economic development efforts, for example, increased variety of housing options, street-level neighborhood improvements, et cetera. The Schimberg Center at the University of Florida publishes data regularly to speak to the need for affordable housing throughout the state of Florida, and they break it down by county. And these were two statistics from their 2022 data set. There's an estimated 14,000 plus renter households, of which 25% are cost burdened. I would bet that the percentage is higher over the last year, year and a half. Cost burden means that residents are spending more than 30% of their income on the cost of housing. And if they're spending more than 30% of their income on rent or on owning a home with current insurance rates, it means that they have less money for health care, for child care, for transportation, for their cars, for car insurance. The other statistic that I want to highlight, all households, not just renter households, all households, there's an estimated 14,000 plus cost burdened households, specifically at 80% and below of the median income of Martin County, and that's who we're targeting, 80% and below. Most of our residents will be at 60% and below, but we can go up to 80% of the median income. Here's the site on MLK Boulevard. It's about 3.5 acres. It's within the East Stewart CRA. It's currently zoned public service. There are multiple bus stops within walking distance that have service from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. One thing I want to note about the property, and this is maybe a bit of a tangent, is that right now this property generates zero revenue for the city. It does not generate revenue for the city. Now, that's not to say it's not useful for the city, but as a baseline, it generates zero revenue for the city. What we're proposing is up to 2 phases of income and rent restricted housing, apartments for up to 130 residences. Currently assuming all 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom units. I was speaking with Michelle, and now I'm getting back to Michelle, and I might embarrass her. I hope not. She expressed a need for working families with kids. It is always our preference, to have a mix, really a life stages family demographic community where we have 1-bedroom apartments, 2-bedroom apartments, and 3-bedroom apartments. The reason we started with 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom apartments is because we have to apply for a competitive housing tax credit subsidy. They look at they score our applications in terms of subsidy request per unit, not in terms of subsidy request per bedroom, subsidy request per unit. And so when I can have more units in the development relative to that subsidy request, my application for these big pots of federal subsidy is much more competitive. That said, I did hear the feedback from a neighbor, and we will include some 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom units. I don't know how many, I don't know what percentage, but we will do that. I cannot commit to 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom units at this point, but we will commit to including some 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom units. Each phase may include up to 65 units and up to 4 stories, but only 3 stories facing Southeast Martin Luther King Boulevard. On-site amenities and property management. We do this at all of our properties. Literally every one of our communities has on-site property management, on-site maintenance, and on-site amenities. We're estimating a parking ratio of 1 space per 1 unit. I hear the concerns about traffic. We all had to engage in the traffic to get here this evening. I'm sensitive to it. A parking ratio of 1 to 1 is appropriate for what we're proposing. And I think it's doable on the 3.5 acres. Available for residents earning up to 80% of the area median income, and I have a slide that shows exactly what that means with HUD's current income and rents, for no less than 30 years. I'm committing to keeping these homes affordable for at least 30 years. Chances are the state agency is going to require me to commit to a 50-year affordability period. We will abide by fair housing laws. We will not violate fair housing laws, but we will commit to marketing locally first. We will commit to marketing locally first. Now, what that means, practically speaking, is we're going to work with neighborhood associations and nonprofits and the city's housing staff. As soon as we start pre-leasing efforts, we may have a lottery system in rounds. But if someone who lives in the community, gets it and submits an application, invites their relative from out of state to apply, in that same application round, I have to accept it just the same. But I will commit to marketing locally first. We've been talking with House of Hope to help get them approved by the state agency, by Florida Housing Finance Corporation. The goal is to have them get approved as the community's supportive service agency and referral agency for some of the homes. This is a draft site plan. It needs some work. And you can see we added a note that the site plan and frontage are to be designed in concert with the MLK Boulevard Improvement Plan. But this shows the scale of what we're talking about. 2 developments, two phases of 65 units each, again, subject to change. If we have more 2-bedroom units, it might impact the total apartment count, the total home count, but this is an example of what we're thinking. These are elevations, draft elevations, of course, subject to standards and feedback. This is a sample floor plan for a pretty typical 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom home in one of our communities. It's about 600 square feet. Of course, there's our 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom homes are not studios, otherwise we'd call them studios. They have separate bedroom. Full kitchen, in-unit washer, dryer hookups, small walk-in closet. They're efficient, right? We have to design and build to the subsidy that's available, so we have to build efficiently. Are we using real hardwood floors? Nope. We're using high-end vinyl or laminate flooring. Are we using the highest-end quartzite countertops? Nope. We typically use granite countertops. We're proud of what we do, and we also have to be good stewards of public subsidy. These are some of the amenities we provide. Social and planned activities. By the way, this is at all of our communities. This isn't just what we would propose in the city of Stuart. Social and planned activities, financial management programs, literacy training to those who want it or need it, employment assistance training, community amenities, again, on-site management and maintenance, fitness studio, library and computer center, club and community room, 24-hour laundry areas for those who don't want to bring washers and dryers into their own homes. These are the incomes and rents. I only included 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom apartments at the bottom of this chart, but I'll read a little bit to you about what a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartment would look like. You can see, first of all, Martin County's median income is just shy of $85,000 a year. If we limit our incomes to 80% of the AMI, for one person, that's someone earning $47,000 and below a year. 2 people, earning about $54,000 and below. Technically, believe it or not, $47,000 and $54,000 for a 1- and 2-person household, respectively, is now considered low income. Wrap your brain around that. That's now considered. And by the way, that's significantly higher than many people earn, especially people who are living off of Social Security or who have lower wage hourly jobs. That's significantly higher. That is technically considered low income right now. That's why when we talk about affordable housing and workforce housing, even though we have prescribed definitions much of the time, we can see why all of this has become conflated, because we know that a single parent who earns $54,000 a year is absolutely part of our workforce. Guess what? They're also considered low income. Most of our homes are going to be reserved at 60% of the AMI and below. Again, for one person, that's someone earning about $35,000 a year. For 2 people, that's about $40,000 a year. HUD uses statistical data, census data, inflation data to set the median income for every county every single year. It typically gets published around summertime. It hasn't been published yet for 2024. They change a little bit every year. They tie to incomes, they tie to inflation. But this is what the 2023 income chart looks like. Now let's talk about rents. Most of our homes, as I said, will be at 60% and below of the median income. The maximum gross rent that I'd be allowed to charge today in Martin County is $953 for a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom apartment. $953. That's not affordable to everyone. That's not affordable to everyone. 10 to 15% of our homes will be set aside at the 30% level. So that's for one person earning just shy of $18,000 with a rent of $476 a month. That is affordable for more people. 10 to 15% of our homes will be reserved at that 30% income level. I want to talk about this, and there was a gentleman who spoke during the open mic period who said, who really made an interesting point about not in my backyard. And one of my biggest challenges as a principal of my company is to do what I can to educate people and combat NIMBYism, not in my backyard, particularly with elected officials, specifically with elected officials. And so this slide resonates with a lot of people, and I want to just read through it. All of our residents, all of our applicants for residency go through a credit application, a criminal and a background check. We have to do thorough income and asset verifications to make sure that they qualify under our strict income restriction guidelines. And we only allow long-term residents. Our leases are for periods of 12 months. Now, we understand that people have histories, and we can turn the dials up and down on what kind of a history we're willing to accept at our communities. Where we draw the line is with a violent and or with a sexual criminal history. If someone has misdemeanors or a felony, but they served their time and it was nonviolent behavior, we would consider them. We turn the dials up and down depending on the development. But I'm harping on this slide because I think it's important to. We have standard security measures at all of our communities. We have on-site maintenance and management. I keep saying that, but we have on-site maintenance and management. We try to have one or two exempted, what we call exempted homes, at all of our communities for staff, for property management staff of the community, and ideally for someone in law enforcement. We just love seeing the cop car in the parking lot. We have 24-hour emergency phone service. If there's a leak in a unit, if there's an emergency, we offer a 24-hour phone line. We have key fob secured access at all building entry points. We have security cameras at the entryways and within most of the common areas. And we would anticipate for this community 2 full-time staffers and 2 part-time employees. This is Parker Point. This is a community that I was referring to in the city of Lakeland a few moments ago. The city of Lakeland owned this property. It was doing nothing. It was underutilized. We worked with them. We signed a long-term ground lease sufficient for me to be able to get financing. And ultimately, we built one 4-story building with 88 homes. This also fits that life stages demographic, which means it's for families. We have a mix of 1-bedroom apartments, 2 2s, and we have actually a couple of 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartments here too. Incomes can go up to 80% of the AMI, again, amenities and management on site. We completed this about 3 months ago, and it was fully occupied by January 1st in the city of Lakeland, fully occupied in about 2 months. We have our grand opening ceremony this Friday afternoon at 4. You're invited, you all are invited. Just please email us first so that we can get a good sense for head count. But we would love to host you at the grand opening if you're able to come on a Friday afternoon. This is Colonnade Park in Inverness. A lot of similarities too. Citrus County provided the local government match contribution, which I'm going to get to in a little bit. Here we had more of a garden-style setup with 3 3-story residential buildings and a clubhouse. This is also for a family demographic. Here, our incomes were capped at 60% of the median income. Again, amenities and management on site. The last bullet point is one that I want to highlight. We face a lot of initial community hesitation. There was a lot of pushback, for some of the same reasons and for some different reasons. Now that we completed this, we're being invited back for potentially a second development and a third community in the city of Inverness. This is Midtown Lofts, also in Lakeland. The city CRA originally owned the land. We entered into a contract to purchase that property. The city also provided a local contribution. This has one 4-story building with 80 homes, also a family demographic. Here, incomes go up to 80% of Polk County's AMI, the Lakeland MSA. Again, amenities and management on site, fully occupied with a wait list, and we want a beautification award. We want a CRA beautification award. A little bit more of a modern aesthetic here at Midtown Lofts. You can see the 2-story community room. We worked with local artists. We have community art with local artists, provided by local artists at most of our communities. We're really proud of what we do. We're really proud of what we do. And we want our residents to be proud of it too. This is Auburn Village in the city of Auburndale. This was the video that you saw. That was the grand opening from this community. Single building with 102 homes with a separate clubhouse. Polk County provided the local government contribution, that local match. This one is reserved for seniors, in this case 55 plus. Incomes up to 60% AMI, amenities and management on site, and we're fully occupied with a wait list. We're occupied with wait lists at all of our affordable housing communities, every one. Okay, a lot of words here. This is what we're hoping to accomplish. We would pay the city a capitalized ground lease payment per developed unit of $6,000. We can try to pay more. I want to be clear, right? We can try to pay more. We are transparent about the math. We are transparent about the numbers. This is what we think we can pay. And even with the other things that I've mentioned, it's a pretty inefficient development for us. We have to find ways to make it better. But we're at $6,000 per development of a capitalized ground lease. Just to clarify also, we're not asking for fee simple interest in the land. I can get these developments financed in my industry with long-term ground leases. So the city doesn't have to give up ownership of its property. Support from the city via impact fees and utility connection fee waivers and any other potential resources. And I know that's a vague statement that's going to rub people the wrong way. And I know that our minds can go wild with what that could mean or how much money that could mean. That's not the goal here. That is not the goal here. We estimated for a 65-unit development with 1 bedroom, 1 bath, the city's portion of impact fees would be about $87,000, right? Connection fees for those utilities that the city provides directly, that is a big deal for us. Site work and underground work is outrageously expensive. Construction costs are outrageously expensive. And just as I'm asking for with you, we have to take a kitchen sink approach to being able to balance our budgets. Also, if I'm going to be changing the unit mix to include 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom units, that's going to add significantly to the hard cost, which is another reason why I need a little bit more help from the city if we're going to be able to make this a reality. Collaboration with the city's CRA to obtain potential property tax exemptions. That helps me leverage more debt. If my operating expenses go down, I can go get more conventional debt, which means more sources, which again means I can probably build more 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom homes. I need the local financial match. Last year, it was $340,000 for what the state agency, for what Florida Housing calls medium-sized counties. I don't know. They haven't published the RFAs. They haven't even finalized the timeline for this year. I would estimate it's probably going to be around $400,000 per development, which is incidentally right around what I'm offering to pay in the form of a ground lease to the city. I will say, however, that it's important for the state agency to use a different source of funding for the local match than from what we're proposing to pay the city. In other words, you can't recycle the land payment. It's got to come from a different source. The reason for that is because the state agency wants to know that we're not paying for our own local government match, which makes perfect sense from a policy perspective. The city will not fund a dime, will not give us any money unless and until we're permitted, we close on financing, and we put shovels in the ground. I'm not asking for any money up front. I have to perform. We have to perform. The city can obligate or earmark funds from a future fiscal year. It doesn't have to be from the 2023 or 2024 fiscal year. The state agency just wants to know that the city signed the local match form and they'll find the money in the future. The reality is, if we're so lucky, if we're fortunate enough to be able to do this, we still have to apply for these housing tax credits, which would amount to about $18 million of federal subsidy allocated by the state agency. Oftentimes it goes to a lottery number. We have developments that have taken us 4 application rounds, 4 years of applying before we won. This is not a rushed situation. This is not, I'm not saying sign right now. This is not a rush job. The reality is these take a long time, which fortunately for the city means it won't have to fund any money, right, assuming we're fortunate enough to do this, for a long time. Green Mills, my company, will be required to provide standard development and construction completion guarantees. I would offer you the same standard construction completion guarantees that I offer to my other financing partners because I'm asking you to be my financing partner. Also, we're long-term partners. I mentioned this before. We would agree that we would not be allowed to sell or exit the partnership interests in this development, in this community, without prior approval from the city. We assume 15 years of operations. That's the typical sort of timeline. Let me be clear about that. The federal affordability period is 15 years. The state of Florida imposes a longer and extended affordability period of 50 years. But what we would say is for the first 15 years, we wouldn't be able to sell our interests without prior approval from the city. So what you see is what you get. What you see is what you get. I'm not a mercenary. And that's it. I'm here to answer any questions you have.
Great presentation, thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner?
Mayor, I've read your thing, and the public is here and want to listen. And we want to listen keenly, and I know that you'll have opportunity if we decide to go ahead and investigate what you're proposing. On the number of acreage that is currently the city, what is it, 2.9?
It's about 3.5 acres.
3.5. And the 2 stories and so on, what was the total number that, did you give a?
Up to 130 homes, up to 4 stories.
Okay, and you had said that you had done something at only 1-1-1, but if you did it at 2-1 or 2-2 or 2-3,
Yes, ma'am.
there might be less units?
Yes, ma'am. Which isn't ultimately what we want, but we have to be able to balance the budget.
Have you looked at, for multifamily, especially in that area, and I know that when we look at the area, we're looking at the entire city.
Yes, ma'am.
But have you looked at the types of units that is there in the public housing now, like the number of units, which are 2 or 3 bedrooms, or?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you have all of that.
Yes, ma'am.
And, and you mentioned about talking to someone when you came
Yes,
here
ma'am.
today. In the other communities, I see that you've been in Hernando County and Inverness and so on. And I'm not gonna call any communities any names, but I'd say that some places are not as urbanized as others. I do see you in St. Petersburg and other areas. So you deal with urban and rural communities, or
Yes.
communities which are,
And everything in between, ma'am.
okay,
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
City of St. Petersburg, we're about to break ground on our 3rd community. It's in South St. Pete, which is a historically minority area. The land there was unused, underused at best, but really it was unused. And there were concerns in South St. Pete as well. That's the reality. Needless to say, we're fully occupied with a wait list at both of our completed communities, and we're breaking ground on a 75-unit second phase of the second phase for seniors
thank you.
this summer. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. I'm glad you mentioned the word phase, and I'm not going to take up all the time, Mayor. But I wanted you to give us a perspective. It's been a long time since the city of Stuart has been involved, if we do get involved with this, in having, I'd call it other money, whether it be federal dollars or other dollars, come in to do a development. Just give us an idea of what kind of funding mechanisms you seek and what kind of a time frame you look at for doing, getting a development done, even with some assistance, half and half, the city land or whatever agreement we make.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
The biggest pot of subsidy is this housing tax credit. It's a federal subsidy originally created in the late 80s, incidentally by the Reagan administration, to try to help rebuild a lot of the older stock of public housing. So this brings me back. I was fortunate enough to be invited, Madeline invited me to speak at a symposium about a year ago. And I addressed a little bit about it, the history of the program. It's important, and I want to spend just another 10 seconds talking about it. This housing tax credit program is now the biggest source for formally designated low-income housing. Again, 80% of the median income and below, affordable housing that exists. It is one of a handful of public-private partnership programs that exists still with bipartisan support on a state level and at a federal level. These housing subsidies, these housing tax credits, they're effectively a tax shelter that gets allocated. Every state gets a per capita allocation. Florida is one of the biggest states, so it gets one of the biggest allocations of these housing tax credits. Every state then has its own designated agency, which writes the rules for compliance, award allocation for that state. Here in Florida, we have the Florida Housing Finance Corporation. They're our state agency up in Tallahassee. They put out funding rounds for different targeted communities throughout the year. This particular one would fall into what they call their medium and small county geographic round. They have other funding rounds for supportive housing, which we do. About a third of our communities are supportive housing for formerly homeless people, for veterans in one case in Miami. But this would be in the general geographic funding round. We think the funding round will be open and then closed in fall. We don't know that, but we think it'll be open and closed in fall. If the amounts per development that we're allowed to request track to last year's application round, we'd be able to ask for, don't know whether we'll win because it often comes down to a lottery number, the equivalent of about $18 million of this housing tax credit equity. That is the biggest pot of subsidy. So let's say, and again, I'm being presumptuous just for discussion purposes. Let's say we're fortunate enough to get approval to be able to proceed. The city helps us rezone this property to be able to build apartments at this site in time for a fall geographic funding round. We won't find out whether or not we're going to win for several months after that. At that point, we would then really get into designs, engineering, site planning, permitting. We could do a lot of the site planning up front. We would do that. We would recommend doing that. But the specific building designs, the architect-heavy, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, things like that, don't get finished until really we more formally engage the architects after we win the allocation of these housing tax credits. So back to your question, we'd be applying for the biggest pot of money from the state agency of these federal subsidies through the state agency. Best case scenario, early next year, realistically, we're full steam ahead with designs and with permitting. I'm lining up the financing at that point, which includes, back to your question, conventional debt. We have to leverage conventional real estate debt at all of our communities. So we've got conventional debt. We've got these housing tax credit, this housing tax credit equity. We've got the city's contribution, which we need. We need that local match for points at the state level. And then the developer has to defer whatever amount of its potential fee to balance the budget. So those are the primary sources. Now, we always, again, it's a kitchen sink approach. We always chase other sources. Capital magnet funds, home funds. The Treasury has certain funding rounds where we can request AHP funds. The Federal Home Loan Bank has AHP funds up to $500,000 per development. And it often requires 75% of all of the above to be able to balance our budgets. Best case scenario, we have shovels in the ground. I would say summer, fall of next year. Best case scenario, summer, fall of next year. That was a long-winded answer to a good question.
Yes, and Madam Mayor, I don't want to go too much, but so there would be potential for you, in your paperwork that I'd read previously,
Yes, ma'am.
you talked about the percentage of cities' participation based on value and how that would work. So
Yes,
there
ma'am.
would be an actual funding participation from the city, as well as some type of a long-term agreement for the land, because that would be the money that would be, you actually would be paying us. You're not wanting that $1 a year thing.
Correct. I'm paying a capitalized ground lease payment for the property. But again, if the city's able to give me that local match contribution, which we need in order to have a chance of winning this $18 million pot of subsidy, it has to come from a different source in the city's budget, general or SHIP funds or something like that, or a combination of 5. It just can't come from my land payment to the city. Now, you could take the capitalized ground lease payment and put it back in the general fund. That's for you all and staff to decide. But yes, you basically got it right.
All right, we have to see if we have land or if we would want to go forward, because the main thing is if we are dedicated to using the property that he's asking for the proposal on. So-
Madam Mayor?
Yes, yes.
So, thank you for your presentation. It was very thorough, and I enjoyed talking to you earlier today. And as I said, right now, there's a lot of need for affordable housing. I've ran the numbers. I think to afford a single-family home at the median price in Martin County, you're looking at needing a $230,000 annual household income. That being said, we haven't even decided that we're going to stop using this property as a garage yet. So I don't think it's ripe. Plus, I've always said all along that this property I think would be better, especially now in the light of Brightline announcement that pending, forthcoming, something like that, Mike?
Don't look at me.
What's that?
Don't look at me.
Something that's going to happen on the 4th or the 11th or some other point, that this would make a great this would be an opportunity for a corporate headquarters. But even if, as much as I think that, even if we were coming in for a corporate headquarter proposal today, I would say it's not ripe. And I don't want to send everybody down the road doing a lot of work just for us to say, oh, it's not feasible to move the garage. And I don't know if this is necessarily the right place. It might be, it might not be. But I'm not prepared to move forward on it at this time.
Thank you for that feedback, Commissioner.
Right.
I understand.
And like I told you,
Yeah.
I'd be happy to talk to you and meet with you and because I do see there's a need, but, there's a lot of moving parts here, and I'm just not prepared to move forward at this time.
Thank you, Commissioner. One of the things that I got beat up pretty good about from my new friend Michelle was appropriateness for East Stewart. And again, I fully appreciate that I'm white and I'm the suit here from a different county proposing a community in the city of Stewart. I get that. I would argue, however, that long-term affordable housing that is truly affordable, that ties to the median incomes, where people aren't spending more than 30% of their income on rent that's professionally managed, on a community that's professionally managed, is perhaps a more appropriate use of that property than a big hotel or a big corporate headquarters. But I also understand the point you're making, and I get it. I do get it.
I hear from any of the other commissioners?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Rosenstein, for that presentation. I believe I read that the AMI for Martin County is somewhat distorted because we have such prosperous prosperous areas, and that the number is unusually high, actually. Is that correct?
$84,000 a year.
Yeah. So I appreciate that you recognize that and are working down at those levels, at the 30% and the 60% level. I mean, a one-bedroom for $953.
Yeah. And 10 to 15% at 30%.
Right.
At about $460, if memory serves me correctly.
So you have to score these, right? These applications are scored,
Yes, sir.
correct?
Yes, sir.
So relative to your other applications, how does this one score?
Not
How will
great.
this one score?
Not great. Here's the challenge, and here's why I'm walking this tightrope about one-bedroom, one-bathroom units and the total number of units. Other medium counties have more developable land, and other medium counties might not be in quite such a high hurricane risk zone. And what that means, from a developer's perspective in my industry, is that I might be able to build 80 or 90 or 100 homes in a garden-style development for the same cost as it would take me to build 65 apartments here because of the additional hardening and the concrete block and all of those additional impact factors. 65 homes the reality is it's not that efficient for commercial development, right? It's cheaper to build per square foot if we can build 300 units instead of 65 units. There's a similar phenomenon on the operational side. We have to have a big professional copier scanner in all of our management spaces, whether we're 65 apartments or whether it's 300 apartments. And so it's not terribly efficient to operate, it's not terribly efficient to build. But I've been trying to develop affordable housing in Martin County now for a decade, and maybe I'm naive, I'm not giving up anytime soon. And we're willing to make this a priority. If we can build more units, if other subsidies become available, if hard costs come down, I won't hold my breath. If insurance premiums come down, probably shouldn't hold my breath either. If interest rates come down, I might be able to leverage more sources, or I might be able to build more units relative to that dollar of subsidy. I'm hopeful, but I can't hold my breath. And so when I present in situations like this, I present the current reality, but I acknowledge that things can change. That's a long way of saying it's inefficient. I don't know how it'll score. We would hope that it would score in the top tier bucket. This is another reason why I'm asking for some of those other benefits like property tax exemption, at least from the city's part, or a utility connection fee. But we're going to do our best to make sure that it scores in a top tier, and so that only lottery number is the deciding factor and nothing else. That's what we try to do for all of our applications.
Is the score influenced by the fact this is so close to two schools, so close to the hospital?
In part, yes. Over the last, I would say, 5 years, Florida Housing Finance Corporation has, we used to call what you're describing the strict proximity test. And Florida Housing would have a threshold proximity score. How close is your development, your designated development location? I'm geeking out, but I'll get to the point in a second. How close is your development location point to the closest public school? How close is it to a pharmacy? How close is it to public transportation that operates during rush hour? How close is it to a doctor's office or a medical clinic or a hospital? All of those things still matter. There's still a proximity score in our application. However, over the last 5 years, the state agency has given much more weight to the local government contribution than to proximity scores, because they want to know which development, which affordable housing proposal the local government has blessed. So it still matters, but it won't win us the day. What will win us the day, if we're able to get this $18 million pot of federal subsidy, is having a good proximity score, which this site does, and the local government contribution.
So you're asking the city to contribute, I've heard some wild numbers out here, but you're asking the city to contribute between $350,000 and $450,000.
That's our estimate.
Per phase.
Per phase, yes, sir. And by the way, this might end up being one phase,
Okay.
right?
But at the same time, you're agreeing to pay the city
Yes, sir.
$6,000 per unit, or that comes out to?
$390,000 at 65 units.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Just want to make that clear to people. But I also don't want to, one thing I'm not willing to do is pretend that this fee is an enormous burden to the city if we choose to go forward, which we're not agreeing to do tonight. But at some point, the city's going to be made aware of the PFAS settlement that we have received. And that amount is not known. It's just known to us up here. And if the half-cent sales tax goes through in the fall, the city's going to be the recipient of well over $2 million a year. That's it's complete windfall for us for 10 years, I believe. So we certainly have the means to meet this payment, especially in light of your payment back to us. I actually called one of your references. I called Mr. James Walker, Jim Walker, Florida Community Loan Fund, which is an organization I was not aware of. It's been around for 30 years. And I said, how does Green Mills differentiate itself from the other applicants you have? And he goes, what they do that nobody else really does is they make sure that both parties win, that it's a good deal both for the community and for themselves. And they are very happy partners of yours for a long, long time, and he gave you a very nice recommendation. And I'm struck by a comment made from the dais regarding the fact that we have not voted to move. We've actually had 2 votes on that issue, and we're simply waiting to hear back. And we authorized the city manager to pay for a design for the new structures over by the water plant. So as far as I'm concerned, the city has decided to move from this site. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, Mayor.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Mr. City Manager, I just want to follow up on that too, that Mr. Rich and both Mr. Commissioner McDonald had said, sorry, Mr. Rich, Vice Mayor Rich. Yeah, it's a time frame, it's something premature, is there a time frame issue? And if there's a time frame issue, and if we do, I think what I want to know, and I think what the public wants to know, is how serious and how committed is the city of Stuart to moving towards taking advantage of opportunities for affordable housing that we're not providing ourselves, and how we can work with an agent to do it. Now, can we do it in a half an hour? Can we do it with this one discussion and deliberation? No, and can we go forward and authorize something? I'm not sure, but I think that I wouldn't say that it's premature. I think it is very important to have this discussion at this time, because after this, we're going to be tipping another way. And we're here talking about headquarters and all this kind of stuff. We're going to be tipping another way. If the city has any land to be developed, we're going to get different type of partners coming in here asking us to do all kinds of stuff. And it won't be the least and most and best affordable housing that you can think of, okay? So that's a whole other thing. I want to know for sure, and I don't know if it takes a motion. We're in a discussion deliberation, but we have members of the public here who wanted to hear his presentation, and we haven't had a workshop to hear how the public feels about some of this stuff happening. He sent in his unsolicited proposal, and I'd really like to find a way to hear from the public, even if there's no motion to move ahead. But for lack of anything, I would like to make a motion that says we need our city manager to fully investigate this proposal some more, especially at this location, to see if there's anything that can come back. Is that something that's feasible, Mr. City Manager? Do we have to actually make it's a discussion and deliberation, so we don't have to do anything on his proposal?
So, at the
So that
end, you made a statement, so I don't, what's the question?
I want you to look, I'd want you to work with this gentleman to see if the proposal is even feasible, to get something to bring back to us. And
Well, first, for clarity, as I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, I don't want to cause Green Mills to incur
any
the
money.
expenses necessary to go through an application process with the development department and the design and plans and spend $30,000 or $40,000 to put a design together if the commission has no interest in pursuing it, because that would be unfair to them. Now, as it relates to, you could direct me to bring back a formal agenda item to negotiate a contract with Green Mills as it relates to this site. You could do nothing. You could direct me to, you could not table it, but you could continue it to another hearing and have a workshop on it if you wanted to. You could, I mean, like you said, it's a D&D tonight. It's more about you guys discussing it and kind of reaching a consensus as far as it goes. But if you direct me regarding the feasibility of it, what you're actually talking about is a development review, which would be talking about site planning and approval of that nature, because the feasibility is, you know, whatever the commission's
It would be the
tolerances.
former, it would be the other thing that you discussed, to try and look into, to come back with something more,
Madam Mayor, before we make a decision, would
Yeah,
you
I
like to
wanted
hear
to-
from the public?
Yeah,
Because
well,
many of them have come here to speak to
that's
this
what I'm
issue.
saying. But do we want to hear from the public without having any motion on the table?
You guys
Yeah.
are welcome to.
Yeah.
well,
If
you
that's,
don't normally
Madam
take-
Mayor, let's
Yeah.
do that then.
That's, that, I can, well, I want to say a few things myself. Thank you, I can call you Mitch, I hope.
Yes, thank
For
you.
coming and the presentation you gave. There are so many people out here in the audience that would like us to see us to go forward, to start, me learning more and the finances and all that. And I wanted to ask also, with these, with the buildings, does everyone get their own electric? How does all that work? What's
Yes.
paid and what's not paid?
Yes, so the rents that I posted are maximum gross rents. We
Right.
typically ask our residents to pay their own electric, because those are typically individually metered by the electric provider.
Okay,
We then have to reduce that maximum gross rent by what's called a utility allowance, equal to the estimated monthly cost of that electric bill, if you will. So let's just use a round number. Let's say the utility allowance for electricity is $50 a month. At that $953, 60% median income level, we would be able to charge $903. And then our resident would be responsible for paying their electric bill directly to the electric provider. That's how it works. So the rents that I posted are maximum gross for 2023. Again, 2024 hasn't been published. But to the extent any of our residents have to pay their own utilities, we actually have to reduce the rent to account for that utility allowance.
okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
That was the only question that I have. What the Commissioner Clark has talked about, I agree, and it's important for us to hear from the audience. You're here, and then we can go from there. So I want to hear from everyone. Aaron Hawkins, do you please come Aaron? It's good to see you again. You're very involved in your community, and I like that.
Yeah, how you guys doing? Just, since it's just discussion and deliberation, I just wanted to put something out there to give people a better context. I'm not sure what the number is now, but over the last year or two, there was about over 300 kids that were living out of their cars here in Martin County or here in the city of Stuart. The public school system calls them transient or in transition families. Affordability is a huge issue here in our area. I think most people know that. And aside from that, it's also a big issue when it comes to, I know a lot of people that worked here in the downtown area, and, a lot of people have been moved out to Port St. Lucie or Fort Pierce because they can't afford to stay here, and that causes a lack of labor issue here in our city. So there's a lot of factors to consider. A lot of young people also, this would also benefit our young population here in the city of Stuart. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Okay, let's see if I can, Talikame Beck King? You have to pronounce that for me. Give me your name and address.
Hi, I'm Talinda Lee. It's Talinda Lee. Beck King, and I live at 494 Woods Edge Trail in Stuart. And I work every day as a nurse home visitor, actually, with Healthy Start and Nurse Family Partnership. And I work with what we say disadvantaged first-time moms. And I'm here to make a plea for this affordable housing. Just to give you an example, one mom I've been working with for the last year and a half, she just turned 18 2 weeks ago. She has a 1-year-old now. And this housing that is being suggested in East Stuart would definitely benefit her and her child. She's now working full-time at a local restaurant and has her child in subsidized daycare. Unfortunately, the restaurant's giving her day shifts, so that's working okay. But she's currently living with her mentally unstable mother, and at any given time, as in which happened, what the situation happened a couple months ago, she was kicked out and had absolutely no place to go, no place at all. And at the time, she was still a minor, so she really couldn't even get into a shelter. Healthy Start actually stepped in and paid for a little bit until we could figure out some stable things. She's back living with her mother again, but reality is I expect the other shoe to drop any minute, and she will need a place to live. So even if she earns, let's say, maybe an average of $15 an hour, which would be great for minimum wage, her gross income is what, $2,600 a month? And you all know that the cost of housing right now for all these beautiful new complexes that have gone up are $2,000 a month. And there's no way she could earn that. Yeah, you're right, even more. And of course, she can't afford that with car insurance, gas, car registration, diapers, and the other necessities of life. And really, I'd like to see her have time to get her GED and to get some more education. She would like to become a phlebotomist or a CNA, and so she can earn more. But of course, you can imagine her situation, every bit of money is going towards just surviving at this point. And so my plea is that definitely this request for affordable housing, we very much need it here in the city of Stuart.
Thank you, ma'am. Samantha Suffich?
Oh, she's here.
Hi.
Good evening. So I'm Samantha Suffich, the CEO of Martin County Healthy Start Coalition. Talinda Lee is a marvelous home visitor for us. First, I wanted to, while I have you as an audience, thank you for changing the scope of the work for the ARPA funding that we received. We greatly appreciate being able to put that funding into the doula and the diaper pantry. But I was raised in Martin County. I live at 1380 Southeast Sand Dollar Lane over in Sarita Heights. I have two kids at J.D. Parker and another one that will go there soon. My kids have children in their classrooms who are living out of cars and tents. And when I have to explain that reality to them, it's devastating and it's shocking to them. I think that you guys need to explore this as an option. It would make a difference to very little the tiny city of Stuart that we are. We, in the nonprofit world, we strive to empower our families. We want them to become self-sufficient. And right now, the way that the economy is forcing them to structure their budgets is making it so they're not able to get off of Medicaid. They're not able to get off of WIC. They're having to use their childhood vouchers because all their money is going into their housing, or they're living in tents or cars or whatnot. So I do appreciate Talinda Lee bringing forth the story. That's one of the things that we face every single day. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Is it Lank Haas? Hayes? Lank? It's, oh. Okay. Robert Veneri, got that right. Good evening.
Good evening, Commissioners. Robert Neri, City of Stuart resident and CEO for House of Hope. First and foremost, thank you for having this discussion tonight and allowing some public participation. You know, affordable housing is an issue in the city, in our county, in our state, in our country, and there is not enough talk about solutions and opportunities and resources. So I appreciate that this is happening here. So one thing I think just in general about housing, you know, what we know from numerous studies and research is safe, reliable, affordable housing, the impact that it has on the community and on the residents. You know, kids are better students, adults are better earners. It has a positive impact on mental health, on physical health. And I will also say that in municipalities where there is traction in creating solutions that fit for our low-wage earners, like what Mitch presented tonight, the only way those things work is support from the municipalities. You got to have everybody working together, public-private partnerships, nonprofits, the government. That is the only way to develop true solutions that are long-lasting, 30 to 50 years, like what was talked about here tonight. So if we're going to actually, you know, do something about this issue, this is the way it's going to happen. And I think it's urgent that we start to address these needs in our community. You've heard some of the stories here, and I'm sure you're going to hear more. In Martin County, housing is now the biggest challenge that our clients at House of Hope are facing. Rents have jumped $400, $500, $600, $700. That's just not sustainable. That's pushing more people into unsafe solutions, not just homelessness, but other issues and challenges that it creates. There's also the economic challenge, open jobs because there's nowhere for workers to live. So all of these things are obviously addressed properly when we have a solution like what was presented here tonight. So I hope that what you'll do here is provide some direction. You're not committing to anything. You're not spending anything. What you're doing is instructing your staff to work with Green Mills, hopefully, to explore them, to explore this parcel, to explore potentially other solutions. But let's not just let the dialogue die. Let's dig in and connect. And I think as far as the dollars and the resources, that give the city manager time to talk to his counterparts at the county. Maybe they'll find ways to participate. Philanthropy could potentially be a solution for some of this. There is big interest among our donor community in Martin County in helping to be part of a solution for this issue. So what you have before you tonight is a chance to explore, to let's figure out what's going to work. Shared adversity with the issues around cost and other challenges that come with it, but create opportunity that betters the lives of our residents. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Nikki Hawkins? Welcome.
Good evening. I'm Nikki Hawkins. I am CEO of Alante Development Group. I'm the housing chair of the NAACP and also the first vice president right here in the city of Stuart and Martin County. So happy to be here. I want to say first, thank you all for considering this development of workforce slash affordable housing. As a developer, I understand how hard it is to build. One of the reasons why I started my company was because I was forced to move to Port St. Lucie because there was no affordable housing here in the city when I got ready to buy my house. So that's why I started my company. I'm here tonight to say that I see the renderings and everything that's going on, but I think that we need to have some more discussion, and I think that the plans need to go back and actually involve the community, because the plans that we have currently do not involve the community.
Thank you very much. Caitlin Palmieri?
Hi, everybody. Thanks for talking about this. This is a huge crisis for so many of us. I wanted to address the idea of not in my backyard first, because it's been sitting with me this whole time. I have a 12-year-old son at Murray Middle School. He's on the honor roll. He plays trumpet in the marching band. I work in childcare and youth programming, after-school programming. I work at the Boys and Girls Club, but these thoughts are my own, Fletch, if you're listening. I taught religious education at my UU church on Central Parkway for 5 years. I'm the clerk at the Women's Club, excuse me, polling place. I work all the elections. I am on the committee to run the NAACP 5K at the Guy Davis Park every year. I'm on the committee to run Miracle on 10th Street at Guy Davis Park every year. I worked for about a year staffing the East Stewart Community Garden, and I definitely could find a home in the development here. I was in an apartment outside the city of Stewart for the last year, and they tried to raise my rent when the lease went to renew by $400. I was already having a hard time doing that with my full-time job and a part-time job and my 12-year-old. So I had to move again. I moved within the city of Stewart. So I was so excited to find out that you were even looking at this as a solution. Sorry. I always like to think, part of why community service is so important to me is I always like to think that you folks have our best interests at heart, that you're trying your best, that you understand what's going on with people who live in the city, and that you're trying to create solutions. It was pretty tough, Commissioner McDonald, to hear that you thought that maybe a corporate headquarters would be a good use of that. So many of my friends and coworkers are in crisis with housing and their budgets. Like, something's got to happen. I understand it doesn't seem ripe for you. It's very ripe for many of us. This is a real, real crisis. I do my best to give back to my community. I understand that I can't write big checks. I can't, throw my weight around as like a CEO of a nonprofit, but I do a lot. And I think that the city, I have a vote. And I vote for you folks, and I vote for people that I feel, are going to represent my interests. And maybe what's happening is our interests are not making it up to you folks, and our conditions are not making up to you folks. And so I'll certainly do my part to have my friends come and speak more, but also look what time it is. And I'm a single parent. It was really hard for me to get here. So keep that in mind as well. I mean, the people who are here can be here, and the people who come to speak at the mic every time, and I watch, can do that. And I just really would say, even if it doesn't seem perfect, I was talking to friends who know a lot about, the coding, keeping the neighborhood character intact. Please at least look at this. Please at least try and make it work. It's needed beyond what any of you can understand. Thank you.
Thank you. Michelle McFadden?
Here tonight.
Welcome.
First of all, I'm just sitting here listening about what they're saying, the need in the community, which I had talked to Ms. McDonald before, and there is a need here in the community. But if you look, there's a lot of places around here that has places. Over there by J.D. Parker, there's an apartment place over there. Then you have one over there, the Crossings. Nobody's living there because they can't afford the rent. So if he builds his places, which the rent is about the same or a little bit more, will they be able to afford that then? I don't think so. They won't be able to afford it. I like what Mr. McDonald said when he was saying that about not building his places there. We need to build something that's affordable for our people. And I don't want to use the word affordable, because affordable is an umbrella and everything falls upon that umbrella. We need to build something low income. Single mothers cannot stay in a one-bedroom with 2 or 3 children paying that kind of rent. What time is she gonna have to be able to spend time with her children when she's gonna have to work two or 3 jobs in order to afford the rent? I work with the school system. I'm barely in the 40s making, and here it is, I wouldn't be able to afford that rent, and I have 2 children staying at home with me. They need their own bedroom. How can I afford a 2-bedroom, 2-bath with me and 2 children? A boy and a girl need their own room. We do need places around here. We do need places that low income for these people to afford. There are children that are staying in hotels and staying in cars and everything. We need to do more for them, because apparently the places over there on the side of J.D. Parker, the crossings, and everywhere else around here, they can't afford that. And if you let somebody else come in here and build with the rent amount being as high as he's saying it's going to build, they won't be able to afford it neither. So it's not a solution. That is not a solution. We need low-income places. That is the solution. We need to build. And building right there in Stewart, where he's talking about building, that's not going to help the community. It's going to drive up the rent for the people that has that property over there. The funeral home going to have to close down. Then what's going to happen? Then the place go away. We already have given up 2 places that here, Cherokee and George Taylor. We lost our families. Our families have moved out. Build something that bring our families back here in the community. I was born and raised here in Martin County, in Stewart. This is my roots, and I don't want to see somebody coming in here building places that the people here in Stewart can't afford already. You got single people now they haven't even moved into the apartments at the end of this street down here. On Martin Luther King, because they can't afford it. They still staying in the rooming house because they can't afford the apartments. So build something that people here in the community in East Stewart, that's born and raised there in East Stewart, build something that they can afford. Low income, not affordable, because affordable is an umbrella that has all kinds of numbers going back and forth. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McFadden. Next, Althea Wiley.
Get up. Of course, my name is Althea Wiley. I do a lot in the community. I'm also a realtor, caterer, mother, you name it. But there are certain trigger words and trigger situations that really kind of makes my skin crawl and it hurts me. Okay, and Mr. McDonald, you did a couple of trigger words to me. And it's easy for you all to sit up there and make a decision for a community that you really haven't experienced, okay? I'm trying not to really get emotional, but this is very emotional for me because I was almost homeless a couple of months ago. Homeless, living in a mobile home park, okay? And I'm telling you, it wasn't for the grace of God and a lot of people that really stood behind me to really make it happen, because a lot of things were happening behind for my circumstances. And what makes me very passionate about this and those trigger words about it may not be the right time. When is the right time? Okay, I'm going to tell you all, you now take ownership of the Gary building, of the Gary property. Take a night and go and stay there. Take your tent, go buy a tent, or go sleep in your car and see what is happening at night, where we have homeless people that are there. And now that you have now that you've taken ownership, they're going to have no place to go. I was not even going to come here tonight because of, affordable housing. I'm thinking of someplace else or whatever. But when I found out that it was going to be here in East Stewart, where housing is needed, housing is needed. So when will the right time be? When will the right time be? Okay, you look at East Stewart. Mr. Gary's property is now no longer. Cherokee is now no longer. The Taylors are no longer. What is happening here? What is happening here to the families of East Stewart? Where are they going to go? If you never experienced homelessness, if you don't even know what it feels like, you will not understand. And you are sitting there and you can't even fathom what people go through when they don't have a roof over their head and the children do not have a place to stay, but they got to get up and go to school and they can't even focus. And I understand about the $1,000, and it may be high for some people. The 1 bedroom, you may need to do more 2 bedrooms because there is a big need here. I'm going to stop because, please, that's all I got.
Mr. Blunt? Welcome, Mr. Blunt.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Commissioners. I've been before you before. I chair the Housing Solutions Council for the last 5 years, so you've heard me here before make my pitch about affordable housing. I'd like to first say that and acknowledge that I'm very familiar with the Green Mills Group, but it was just today that I heard about this project, and I was very excited when I heard about it, particularly with them being involved. But I'm particularly excited about it because their model fits what our organization has been preaching for a long time, and that's not dealing with those people in the 140% of AMI, which really by state statute could even be affordable workforce housing. But we're interested, and we've been saying all along, our message has been, let's take care of those people in the, at least under the 80%. We've talked more about those under the 60% of the AMI, which in Martin County, you've seen the numbers, is $84,800. And so I urge you to take this forward for further discussion. And as the previous speaker said, you know, now's the time. You know, we just can't we can't continue to put this off. If we want to keep our workers that provide services for each one of us here in Stewart and Martin County to stay here, we can't just brush that under the rug. So I encourage you to take this further for more discussion. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Smith, Jimmy Smith, on item 7?
Yes. Thank you for having me again.
Yes, sir.
Listen, I got a couple questions for him that he had made a statement of saying that your application will be based on a background check.
You got to look at me this way, Jimmy.
Yeah, okay. I
You
just
can
had-
talk to him, just let us hear you.
Okay, on a background check, you said he was turning the dial up and down. That concerned me. And then also you said something about there's someone on the application can choose to put someone on the application, and that would be another way that you still have to review that application, right? I'm just trying to get those, because that's concerning. We do low-income housing for our community, which we need, and I'm going to explain why we need it. Would the city have a part of being a review board on who's you're going to let come in? Because the same thing with Port St. Lucie, when they first created their housing, $500 down, you can get a house built, and then it got bombarded from out of cities, different cities. I'm just concerned about those things when we do make that decision, that we can have a review board with the city having some involvement of creating a review board, that someone can make sure that this thing ain't get bombarded from the outside and then the inside is not being paying attention to. Don't get a chance to get. You can see it all over. Even now, the other housing part, Habitat housing, has been bombarded. And other people that really need a house, they can't get it now because it's been bombarded by others. So the reason I want to say that the city of Stewart is in debt, really needs that, because you know the #1 felon school for us in Martin County? J.D. Parker Elementary. The blacks, and only two black kids that's passing at J.D. Parker. 2. And all of them come out of East Stewart community. Felon because of their condition that they're living. worrying about the next meal, a place to stay, probably sleeping uncomfortable. Right here, working with the school board, is that we got a group of retired teachers that willing to come in and try to tutor J.D. Parker School. That's why it's so important that we need to consider, and those parents, those grandparents have paved the way here for Martin County, have paved the way, have worked. I know because my mother tilled the ground, worked for the Bushes for all those years, and when she retired, she got nothing. They paid her peanuts under the table. She couldn't even not get Social Security. So I know that it's not your fault, but it's somebody, because the domino effect trickled down the line. So we have to really come together on these things and try to help these kids out that's right now failing at J.D. Parker. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. I have one more.
Mayor, should I?
I have one more, then I'll let you come up. Sean Reed on 7.
Hello. Yes, I wanted to clarify my comment, first of all, on not in my backyard. Everybody in this crowd wants affordable housing. When they come up in front of the commission, though, most people on this commission or other people that come into the crowd, they say they don't want it, but it's a real issue. Obviously, it needs fixed at one point. And this was a question for Mitchell. What's your salary compared to what's up here for people to afford? Also, has Green Mills sold any of these properties in the past? I know he mentioned something about 15 years. And also, I remember at the Stewart Housing Authority, they were 1,300 behind. Even if this project was approved, you fixed maybe 10% of the issue in the city of Stewart. I don't know how much property the city even has, if they gave it all to them, if it would even fix it. And also, you know, if we really wanted to fix it, we have Newfield that was approved, and I know there is a county commissioner, you know, in the meeting. That was 4,000 single-family houses. Imagine how many apartments we could put there to where people could afford them, instead of doing that. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Please come forward.
I appreciate the opportunity to respond to some of the questions. First, Mr. Smits, about the tenant application process. I'm going to try to clarify, and I'll try to be brief. We're required, because we're getting this federal subsidy, there's a lot of compliance restrictions that are brought with it. We go through typically at least one, usually 2 audits every single year for every single one of our properties. And literally all of our residents' incomes are checked. So we have to abide by the strict income restrictions that we're bound by. That's number one. When I made the comment about turning dials up and down, I was actually just trying to articulate that we can be more flexible than a lot of the other housing owners when it comes to our prospective residents. That's all I was trying to convey. I did clarify where we draw the line. Again, it's with a sexual criminal history and or a violent criminal history. That's where we draw the line. The unit mix, again, I heard Michelle speak again about kids. It's absolutely our preference to have not just 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom units. It's our preference to have 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom units as well. It just costs a lot more to build. We're adding square footage, but we will commit to including at least some 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom units. Did I answer your question, sir? I feel like I missed one, but I can't remember.
I'm going to allow you to do it, but we don't normally.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. And we can chat. I'm available.
Yeah.
The next gentleman who spoke, I'm not going to take the bait as to what my salary is. What I can tell you is that I went broke starting my business. I left the prior company where I was an executive because I wasn't sleeping at night, as did my partner, my now partner, with me. And we're not going to get into details, but we both went broke starting Green Mills Group. You don't need my family history, but you can have it. My dad sold shoes at the mall. So certainly I'm not, didn't grow up extremely low income, but I was for sure lower middle class, and my dad was well below that.
You didn't have to
So
answer that.
as to, I'm not going to take the
That
bait.
was-
I'm not
yes.
going to answer
Very
what my
uncalled
salary
for.
is.
I
I'm
agree.
blessed. That's the reality. I worked really hard, and I'm grateful for everything I have, in part because I had to give up everything in order to achieve what I've achieved. And now I have an opportunity to build a company. My partner Oscar and I have built a company over the last 11, 12 years from nothing, except our experiences and our hard work and what little savings we had left. And I'm absolutely grateful for every opportunity I have to be passionate about what I do before commissions like this and before staff and before members of the audience. Have I sold any of my communities? No, sir, I haven't. We have not sold any of our communities, and I would agree that we can't sell our partnership interests in this community for at least 15 years without prior approval from the city. You mentioned that the Housing Authority is 1,300 units behind. I think that's what you said, about 1,300. It's a problem. Yeah, I agree. We need a kitchen sink response at all levels of income. I agree with what Commissioner McDonald said when we spoke about supply side economics. I agree that there's benefit on the supply side. I also think that there's a place for housing authority, new housing authority stock, which is at the extremely low income level. The low income level, which is what we pride for, Habitat for Humanity. I think there's a role for all of them, and certainly there's a need for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Yes, sir, Mr. Brinkley. 3 minutes. Go ahead, speak. Yes, sir.
No problem.
Thank you,
I look
sir.
around in here, and nobody knows that community, and specifically that area, but me. I was raised there. I came here 2 years old, went around the block, end up where I am now. So nobody knows that area or that community but me. I deal with the people in the community. This situation that is being put on the table will not, absolutely not benefit no one in that East Stewart community. It will be put there, but it will not benefit nobody in that community. All these properties that have been torn down in there. You know, right now, people living on the street, when I take my grandbaby to school in the morning, I'm looking at people that's been on the street all night. The same people that been living in the house that the city, I'm just telling you like it is, like the city tore down in there, those same people know where to live. I had to feed a young lady with her 2 kids living in a tent around the corner from me. This would not benefit. What is a 1-bedroom going to do with the 2 or 3 kids? Come on, y'all. Let's come to reality here now. We need to be looked at and heard in the East Stewart community, not looked over. Because right now, you know what the community is saying? That our community about to be taken. And the community, I'm telling you what being told me, because I deal with the community. The community is tired, y'all. They feel like we are not being heard in the community. The community is feel like the city wants to take the East Stewart community. 1-bedroom. Come on, we kids. Come on, y'all, let's come to reality now. Come on, we all adults here. Come on. Nothing that's being said tonight will not benefit no one in the East Stewart community. I lived on that street, like I say, from a child. The only thing that ever been, and I lived in one, 2-story houses on that community. That's all ever been on Martin Luther King. I lived in a 2-story up near Ernst and Produce. It was 3 2-stories there. That's all ever been in the East Stewart community. What East Stewart look like with a 3 or 4-story building? Come on, y'all. Come on, let's be real. Come on now, we adults here, let's be real. How would that look in the East Stewart community? And how would it look that something is being built that's not going to help no residents? People living on the streets, they're now from the houses that have been torn down. Children, come on, that hurts me. Being a child of God, that hurts. I hate people coming to me, Mr. Abbott, do you know where I can live? The places, Jock Layton built those places on Martin Luther King Boulevard right there, and you know what they charge me? $1,800. I got a duplex behind me, empty, $1,300.
I understand you.
That's sad. Come on, y'all.
Thank you, sir.
Help the people in the community.
I'm sorry, I remembered Mr. Smith's other question. It was about, if I might, you asked about marketing locally first. You took issue with what I said. I want to clarify. Hopefully this will help. We will not violate any fair housing laws. We can have application, we can open up the community for tenants, for applications for tenancy, and we will absolutely commit to marketing locally first. If someone from the community, right, invites one of their relatives to simultaneously submit an application, I can't turn them away because that would potentially violate a fair housing law. But I will market locally first. I commit to that. I hope that helps.
I have a question.
Thank you, sir.
Madam Mayor, I have a question.
Yes.
So just to clarify, you cannot guarantee that that building will be filled with people from this community?
The reality is.
You cannot guarantee that, correct?
No, I can't, but the reality is 80% are likely to come from the city of
Because
Stewart.
that was the promise with the 3,000 units that we have approved over the last 4 years, is that they would be workforce and that supply would help.
No, that's not true.
Yeah, that's not true.
Commissioner, that's not true.
We didn't build a bunch of workforce housing?
No.
That's not what we did the last 4 years?
There might have been one or two, but no, sir. No, we've got a lot of really nice.
Because that's what was sold to all of,
Well, a lot of people believe that because you hear them say it over and over and over. And they repeat it to people over and over and over, and then they start believing it.
the Lofts wasn't workforce?
Pardon?
Harbor Grove wasn't workforce?
No.
Costco was supposed to be for those apartments for the people that worked at Costco. The
Oh,
one that's
no.
coming up, that's supposed to be for
finally said
the
they're
people that work
high-end.
at the car dealership there. That's always the thing, is it's workforce.
They hope so, yes.
That's always what we're told.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Madeline Bozone Greenwood. I'm here with Housing Solutions Council, and also I'm a third-generation native to the city of Stewart. My grandfather was a
can't
city
hear the lady.
commissioner. And, but I just want to say, I think the problem that a lot of people in the community have about the units that were built, that were workforce, is that it didn't go to our local workforce. We've got these, what we call digital nomads, working virtually, coming from California and New York, working on their incomes, which is much higher than our local wage earners, and they're taking up all those units and displacing our local workforce who are being pushed out of not just Martin County, but Florida altogether. 245,000 local Floridians moved out last year, and a lot of them from our community we're seeing being displaced. So I understand the concerns of the local community in East Stewart wanting to make sure that people here that are working here will be housed. And what it's my understanding, and Mitchell can correct me if I'm wrong, that you can give a local preference to local workers first. You can't discriminate someone else coming in from West Palm or Port St. Lucie, but you can give a preference to the local workforce. And at Family Promise, we all the time see locals that have been working here for 10, 20 years moving out. We actually have to help them move out of the state. And these are people that are much beloved here, that work at the hospital, that work in the local grocery store, that work for the county even. And so we are really trying to do something. And so it seems like whenever someone brings something, and it's my understanding, House of Hope will be vetting them. So that's a local nonprofit that will help vet people that are in the ELI, the extremely low income. So that's more of a guarantee that you'll have someone kind of making sure it's people from the community to first get access to these units. I'm not saying that that's the best location. I'm just saying some location. And I also know Mitchell very well. We invited him to speak at a summit, and I know that he hasn't had an opportunity yet to meet with the community, but if he did have an opportunity, he would hear their concerns and try to come to some middle ground best as possible. But at the end of the day, if you're trying to offer something affordable, you do have to have lots of things. We tried it with Housing Solutions Council, as you all well know, and if you can't get a bunch of very wealthy donors that are willing to just give the money and then not get anything in return, you can't offer something affordable without these tax credit deals from Florida Housing Finance Corporation. In order to do that, there's certain laws that they must abide by, but the more people we get from the community to put in to make something like this happen, maybe it won't look like you saw. He can make it look different somehow, but something that the locals, people in East Stewart and the rest of the community can live here. They're just being pushed out. And the prices are crazy right now, just for so many different reasons, but it's so expensive to build. And so it's very, very hard to get something done, but we need something from the city, the county, the local nonprofits to work together to get something done. This seems like a really great opportunity if there's more conversation. So that's my part, my 2 cents.
Thank you. There's,
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
I have a couple of questions. Mr. Mortel, and I don't know, is our Development Department Director here? Yes, Joe, yes. So, I just want to make it clear, we have a housing element chapter in our comprehensive plan, is that correct? Yes, ma'am. And we have a land development code. Okay, and is there anything in our housing plan, in our policies or objectives that says the city of Stuart is going to build housing and build, I'm talking about build now, I'm not even talking about partnerships, I'm talking about building housing for low income or any housing at all, Mr. Mortel?
There's no requirement in our land development regulations or our comprehensive plan that the city of Stuart actually build any housing whatsoever.
So when
There is
we-
a housing element, which is element 3 of the comprehensive plan, that addresses the maintenance of housing inventory, which addresses different housing types and the goal of the city to balance those.
Objective to attainment of certain types of housing. So when we have residents who ask us and say the city is not doing enough, or the city is not building housing for people, we need to make sure that people understand what our role is as policymakers and decision makers, and what is in the comprehensive plan, and especially what the role is of people who are involved in the community, such as Mr. Ranieri, who research and find out ways in which the city can help the city to partner and to try to meet some of our requirements that we're supposed to do. And so I think that is where we are. And I understand Ms. Hall and Mr. Brinkley and their comments, and there's no rule that says that when housing is built, it's going to have to go exactly for this person or that person. It is there for the community and for the income level and for those who apply and those who come in, and it's not going to be racially set out or anything like that. And if a private developer wants to come in and do something and decide how they want to deal with something, that's fine. But when the city is looking at something for the city, it truly is for the city. And we do have some, I don't know if you call them geographic lines or longitude, latitude, they're rail lines, but I don't think those rail lines say, when it comes to housing, that if you're stepping out from Port Salerno or someplace else or Palm Beach County, and if you happen to end up in Martin County, that somehow you either get out of the line completely or you're constantly in the back of the line. People are always looking for opportunities, and I think Madeline said it so well in her, she's out there in the community. She knows who's coming and who's applying and which teachers are having issues and which even our police and fire and others, or if I become homeless tomorrow, if I can't pay the $2,400 or $3,500 or whatever it is in mortgage or rent, they're fully aware. And I think that what we're being asked, and I will make a motion right now, that we get, let me see what the staff is asking, had suggested that we do, that we ask for direction, that we place an item on the agenda for presentation and vote in the future. And I will say, whatever happens with this, I'm asking for a second on my motion, but I also want to, at this time, appreciate and acknowledge what Mr. Rothstein has brought in for us to look at, and the sheer being brave and coming to Martin County, which is one of the richest counties. And when we get one little opportunity to look at federal monies to try to figure out what we can do, it may or may not be the right place. We have 2 acres north of the bridge. I know the Housing Coalition has been looking at that, and there might be other places. We have very limited spaces in the city of Stewart. And maybe this can work on something. I don't know if there'll be leftover land after we work with redesigning the Willigera property with the hub and so on. I don't know if there'll be anything. Maybe the county commissioner was here. Maybe he heard something that can be done in Martin County in order to get these type of funding there. But I'm making a motion to put it on the agenda for full presentation and vote, and to do it at a future time, and to continue this discussion on working with the property for affordable housing.
We have a motion on the floor.
Second.
We have a second. What about any of the commissioners? Anyone have any more to say? Do we have?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make
We're
a comment.
through with public comment, I believe.
No. you
Take-
took public comment
Yes, that's right.
You took public comment before the motion, so you're probably,
So many issues brought up. What's very frustrating to me, and actually it's been my entire life, is when someone...
Can't hear you, Mr. Rich.
When someone reveals an immense problem and solutions are presented that deal with a percentage of them, and the comment is made, well, you're not solving the entire problem. It's very rare that any organization or municipality can solve an entire problem, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't do the best we can when an opportunity presents itself. Is it going to, and you know who it'll make a huge difference for the 130 individuals and families who will be able to get off the street and have a place to live and maybe not have to own a car and can walk to the hospital and be one of the hospital workers, because though that income sector is essential to a community for the services we all take for granted. And if we can't house them and if we can't accommodate them, the vibrancy of this city will suffer. One of my phrases I always keep in mind is a city is diversity. And what that means is we need a diversity, not only ethnic diversity and racial diversity, but economic diversity. You know, I can't think of a better place for this to be because it's in an area we've spent more time talking about than any other area, and that's East Stewart, especially with the form-based code. And why this is so good is the form-based code, the East Stewart Neighborhood Code overlay, first paragraph, first sentence. The purpose of this code is to encourage redevelopment, infill development, small business development, and affordable housing. That's the first thing we decided that we wanted to see in East Stewart. And you know what's a nice accompaniment to that? Is if we do build a building in there, a community workshop is required. Neighbors make neighborhoods, okay? To think, I am not willing to put a structure into East Stewart without meeting with the community and speaking with the community and understanding what the problems are and what's the best way to solve them. And in fact, the code requires that we do that. So, and I'm sure Mr. Rosenstein will be more than happy to make that effort, and I certainly will be making that effort. And taking advantage of the time we now have to speak with the people who live in East Stewart, and I know Jimmy will be knocking on my door.
Okay. Any other comments?
No, thank you, Madam
Okay.
Mayor.
Anyone that hasn't commented before can come before us, or we're going to have a vote. Anyone from the public? Okay.
up, up.
Yes.
Regina.
Thank you very much. Give us your name and address. fill out a card when you get through.
Will do. My name is Regina Hawkins, another Hawkins. I wanted to say that this project of having affordable or workforce housing, whatever you want to call it, or low-income housing, is very much needed in Stewart. I just hope that it goes and it's done the right way. You need to meet with East Stewart. That is very important. Diversity is very important. And another thing is the people that work on this project, they need to be from Stewart, some of them, because then the generational wealth is passed along within the same communities instead of it going all the way back to where Fort Lauderdale, Miami. Some of these people who build these projects, some of the people need to be, the people in the communities need to also be the ones working on the project. Thank you.
The good news is, is it Rosenstein? Rosenstein, you live in Delray.
Yeah.
And the people behind you are right there on Martin Luther King Boulevard. So it is, it's good to know that it is local. And I look out at this audience and look at all the fine men and women that have been working very hard for us to go forward and try to figure out something. So that's what we're going to do, try to figure it out. We'll take a roll, Mary.
Vice Mayor Rich,
Yes?
Commissioner McDonald,
No.
Commissioner Collins, Commissioner Clark,
Yes.
and Mayor Brunner.
Yes.
3-2.
Okay. We're through with that, adjourned.
Thank you.
Good job, Madam Mayor.